She's very, very, very conscious. It's in my email. Yeah. Send it out last week? Yeah. No. Karen, in a controller.
Karen, the financials, did you mail them to us?
Yes.
When?
Friday, Thursday, something like that.
I'm gonna take care
Did
of
you get it?
Well, I got my billing from you, but I don't recall financial.
Yeah.
They were there.
Yeah, it was. It might have gone into junk. In your junk.
Well, but your bill didn't go to junk, damn it.
No, I know. We got that worked out. I changed that email too, by the way, so it doesn't, my name's not on there anymore.
It's finance. Yes.
Oh, good job.
Yeah.
Too many codes.
Yeah.
Karen, Mark, what are you doing? Now it's not. So the thing is, what I want to do is financials, right? I don't even want to speak at all. But if I have to speak, I'm going to speak only to December. And I want to do positive to back. So the thing is, total income is $60,000 on plus, right? And then I just want to say the loss was 105,000, but I don't want to say against budget because then there's the question. I prefer to say in budget.
Well, again, we're gonna have that information for you.
Yeah, it is proposed to yeah, he's saying between Carl and I with the white hair.
So the guy between Carl and the guy in the white hair is great.
Yeah, so I just paid attention. I don't know.
I did too. I don't know what the guy with the white hair is. I don't know the guy with the white hair is. No, or the guy on the.
So I'm gonna just say, I'm gonna say preliminary. Until the audit is usually careful. Entries are still being made, that, but, the income for the month of December was $60,000 higher than, budgeted. And we had a loss of $105,000. For the year, and that's it. And then we'll see what happens. I don't know. Yeah, same people.
The charge or something like that.
I know. It is. It's annoying.
It's in a bucket.
I know. And you know what? Everybody's been admitted and it works. And it works. It's sitting in there, the tragic, and it goes to retainer at the end of the day. Yes, we're going to pay it.
That's accepted. Every small business, every business. They get my church.
They got PPP money too. I'm sure they got participants doing it themselves. I don't know. You're still going to the money that used to be a
Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to get started.
You should say. I feel so cool up here.
Good afternoon. Let's get started. We have a full agenda today. If we could call the roll, please, Mrs. Card.
Yes, Mr. Lazidas,
Here.
Mr. Sutton,
Here.
Mr. Farkas, here, Mr. Lenderick,
Here.
Mr. Lloyd,
Here.
Mrs. Card is here, Mrs. Blanche.
Here. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is to read or waive the minutes from the November 15th board meeting. Do I have a motion
Move it.
to read or waive?
Waive it.
I have a motion to waive the reading of the minutes of the November 15th meeting. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Call for a vote, please.
I don't think we need a roll
Just
call.
all in favor?
Yes. All those in favor of waiving the reading of the November minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Next item on the agenda is a motion to read or waive the minutes from the annual budget meeting of November 29th. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to waive the reading of the minutes.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay,
All those in favor of waiving the reading of the minutes of the budget meeting in November, say aye.
aye,
Those opposed? Thank you.
okay. Moving right along. It was an executive session held on Wednesday, December 7th. Motion to read or waive the minutes from the executive session. Do I have a motion?
Motion to waive it.
I will second that.
All those in favor of waive the reading of the minutes of the executive board meeting on December 7th, say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you.
Okay, good. And since we did not have a meeting in December, no minutes from December.
I would like to speak on the executive session.
All right, we've already taken our motion, we've already voted.
Well, I would like to speak on the executive session. I think I can. Why wouldn't I be able to voice my opinion? So the executive session we had, maybe Patty or Nancy can explain what the discrepancies were and why we had the executive session. Number two, my question is why, if the appeal board gave us certain ideas to move forward with, why aren't we doing it? Sorry.
I don't feel comfortable answering that question unless I speak with our attorney first. That was a closed session. It was an attorney-client meeting. It was not open to the membership. I'm not sure that we should be speaking openly and publicly about it. So we would need to get an opinion from him first. Otherwise, we would have had an open meeting, but it was a closed meeting with an attorney. So it's an attorney-client meeting with the HOA board. That's not open for the public at this point for discussion, and it's not on the agenda for today to discuss
Right,
this.
transparency to the membership.
Transparency is one thing, Tom, but attorney-client and following Florida statute and HOA is something else. And we want to make sure that we do it correctly. I just have a few comments today because we do have a full agenda. So first of all, welcome to those in the room and those on Zoom and to our new members who have returned for season. Just a reminder, and I'm sure the communications committee will probably mention this as well, that there is a new homeowner welcome party this coming Saturday from 3 to 5. There's information on the website. On the club calendar is a link to register to attend the event, and there is a flyer. We look forward to meeting all of our new members this Saturday. Hopefully you will be able to attend. If you haven't registered for one of the town hall meetings for next Monday, session 1 at 2 o'clock, session 2 at 5:30, I'm happy to report that it is filling up. We have over 500 members registered already, which is wonderful. It's great to see so many members are interested in coming and viewing and hearing about the possibilities for our club. I will say that there have been many duplicate registrations. If you've signed up for the meeting more than once, you would have gotten a confirmation email. If you could please go in and cancel out one or more of your multiple registrations, that would be helpful so that we know that we have an accurate number of attendees. The other thing I wanted to mention was that there was a meeting that was held last Monday with a group of about 50 members that have agreed to act as sounding boards, as volunteers to help members who may not have access to a computer, who may be struggling with registration, general questions about where we are with the facilities plan and about the town halls in general. Please reach out to one of them if you're unclear about anything, and they'll gladly assist you. The names of those members was published in the Friday Flash last week. Having a team of volunteers is a really wonderful thing for us to have. Many of area clubs have used them. We've borrowed that idea from area clubs who've had member volunteers who have had an adjunct role with the facilities planning teams to help spread the word understand that there's a process and you can speak openly and willingly to friends and neighbors. It just creates a spirit of openness and optimism about this. And a big thank you for all of the members who have volunteered to step up to assist their communities with anyone who's maybe having some thoughts or struggling with the registration. So we look forward to seeing you all next Monday. Later this week, you will be receiving the first notice of our annual meeting that will be held in March. So if you are signed up to have electronic mailings, you will receive it electronically. Otherwise, you'll be receiving your first notice of our annual meeting in the mail. Lastly, I just wanted to say a few words about the Glen Eagle Code of Conduct. As this is commonplace in most clubs, we are no different in having a document that outlines the spirit of the member code of conduct. But I think everyone can agree that it's only as meaningful as the policies and procedures that support it. And our Vice President Mo Lloyd has undertaken the task of drafting policies and procedures. And I think it's a very important step at this time. And I want to give him a quick update to let us know where that stands. Mo, please.
Well, as you know, back in the spring, we passed a member code of conduct. Basically, this code of conduct is probably as benign as they come. The board went through at least 12 drafts that I know of. This code of conduct speaks primarily to mutual respect, and there is no punitive statement or anything involved with this code of conduct. It's basically, and there are basically 4 areas: respect the Glen Eagle members, renters, and their guests, and treat them with courtesy and dignity. The second one is respect club staff, treating our staff and our workers with respect. The third one is respect club property and our facilities. And the fourth and final one is respect all club bylaws, rules, declarations, and policies. Now, we know, and we've as a board, we've had some issues in the past with the process. There is no clear, let me put it this way. There is no clear procedural pathway in this code of conduct to enforce it. There is no policy statement. Some people have chosen to use this code of conduct and weaponize it. And that's not the intent. We have rules.
Point of information, please.
No, do not interrupt, please. Could you wait? Thank you.
Is this Robert's rules?
Yes, it is.
I have a right to have point of information. I have a right to ask the question.
He does. Yeah, he does.
Look at your rules.
Ask your question.
Go ahead and ask.
As far as I'm concerned, the code of conduct. that was
Put your
done-
hand down, Donnie. Don't be pointing at people when you do that,
I'm not
please.
pointing, this is not pointing, excuse me. And I have the floor.
Go ahead, Don.
The code of conduct that you people voted on was done, as far as I'm concerned, illegal. That, what you put forward as a motion that you voted on as a board, you should have had the whole membership vote. Because now you're talking about changing the bylaws, you're talking about introducing something into the bylaws. The code of conduct, which we already have in the bylaws.
We do not have a code of conduct in the bylaws.
You as a board decided, because you have a majority, to change the code of conduct here at the club. What you should have done is brought it forward. When she brought it forward as a motion, and it was seconded by somebody, everybody in this hall had a right to vote on it, yay or nay. So what you're doing, you're all saying you want to follow the rules of Robert's rules, excuse me, then start following. If you don't know, you better take a course and learn it.
All right, let's talk about the code. Let's don't talk about Robert's rule right now. The code of, this is, Don, this is the most benign document ever written. There is nothing, what you're telling me then is you don't think it's right for people to respect one another. I cannot make people respect one another.
Absolutely not. That's
And-
not what I'm saying that you and another fellow up there named Gary Linderden sat on my, Linderick, excuse me, sat on an appeal for me. And you had the general manager sit
Okay.
right there.
This is,
Which
was
one?
dead.
now this is a point of
This
order.
is-
We're getting
this-
out of order. We're off topic.
No, he was talking about respect and everything else.
That's all this document is asking for.
None of yous know.
Now, is there anybody in this room that doesn't think that we should be respecting one another? And the last thing this board needs to do, wants to do, and should do is sit here and arbitrate and mitigate disagreements between membership. This is just not, it's just not our function. The function of this board is to set policy.
That's correct.
And this is a this is a policy statement for everybody to just respect one another. And we've got a lot of disrespect going on in this country, let alone in our own membership. So we need, that's all this is a statement of. That's all it is.
I would like to have point of information as well. So, on this code of conduct, 8 months ago, we established this. And as a board, we all had our input. And we all came back and took certain points out and gave certain points, and we all voted for the code of conduct.
Excuse me, where's that recording coming from? Somebody's phone on? If they could mute,
Voted
please.
for
Thank
this code of
you.
conduct.
Thank you.
You know, myself and Mr. Sutton put forth this board, I put forth this board 3 times, I think Dave probably signed a couple times, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you know, to have, you know, our policy put in place along with our code of conduct. It was rejected. No one on the board really took a look at it. And Mo, I thought today you were gonna have something put together to talk about as far as the
That's not
discipline,
an item on the
wait a minute,
agenda.
the discipline procedure that we put forward, which
not
doesn't
on
go
the-
along with the code of conduct. So I have a real problem because the code of conduct, it's good enough for thee, but not for me, is our attitude of this board. We've had members harassed in the dining room.
Okay, Tom,
Let
I'm
me
going to stop
finish.
you right there. There
No,
is
let-
not, the
let-
code of conduct
let
is
me-
not an
let me
item on the
finish.
agenda
Okay,
today.
Let me finish.
All we were doing today as
But
part of President's
we have in
comments.
our code of conduct, bullying. It's happened, it happened, you know, by board members, and I'm not gonna mention names. I sent a letter to the board, an email that was totally ignored. You know, and if anybody wants to see a copy of that email, email me at my email address. I'll be more than glad to release it to you. Because I really feel this code of conduct is a one-way street right now, and I did vote for it. So I want to raise a motion. Madam President, I'd like to raise a motion that we move to rescind the code of conduct on the grounds of misuse and disparity amongst members and stay with the bylaws and enforce it under the conduct we've had in this club for the past 20 years.
Is anyone going to second that motion?
Second.
You're not on
You're not on
the
the
board, Dawn. God, talk about Robert's rules. Is there anyone on the board that's going to second that motion? Okay, the motion is denied. Today, the code of conduct is not on the agenda. What was the point of discussion today as part of my comments was to let the members know that we recognize, under the previous board president, we recognize we voted in a code of conduct, but we did not put a policy and procedure in place with it. Okay, we'll own that. Now we need to draft one and put one in place, and that's what we're working on. Will the membership have a chance to view it? Absolutely. You had a chance to review the code of conduct. You gave us multiple input on it. There were multiple views, versions of it before this board finally, or the last board finally voted it in, or different officers, but same board. What we're doing now is putting a backbone to that code. If we decide that we can't come up with a backbone to the code, then we'll have to go for a plan B. But for right now, it's only been done 50%. We need to do the other 50%. That's all that was intended to do today.
Would that be old business though and stay on the agendas?
Probably so.
Probably.
Should have been.
It wasn't, but it wasn't an agenda
It's not
item
ready.
today.
I
It was
asked for
something-
it to be an agenda item. And you ignored my email. I asked for it to put on the agenda.
We weren't ready to do it.
Anytime I ask for something on the agenda, it's never applied to the agenda.
Those are my president's comments for today. I'm going to turn the microphone over to Ben for general manager.
Good afternoon, everybody. In the interest of time, I have a couple of subjects that I want to touch on. We have had some operational impacts from COVID with the staff and with several members that I just found out today also. So that's a challenge that we're dealing with, especially in the food and beverage department and in golf. We've had issues in both of those areas, having enough people to properly service the membership. But we're working our way through that the best way that we can, and the way that everybody else is kind of going through this thing still, which is, shocking that it's still going on. But I just wanted to address that subject. We had a very productive house and restaurant committee meeting. I don't want to steal Mr. Sutton's thunder, but what I've reiterated is how much I need to have the information of what's going on and what people's opinions are of the food and beverage program and all the dining amenities. And I plan to act on that in whatever capacity is necessary to make sure that we have a dining amenity that the members can trust and can believe that they can bring their guests in, and that we're going to provide a consistent product. We are not there yet, and I'll be very honest with you about that. But that is my goal, and that's a top priority for myself and everybody on the food and beverage management team. Also wanted to speak to the finance committee meeting that we had last week. Some of our board members were in attendance for that. We do intend to, when the time is appropriate, once we have fully audited financials for 2021, is to have the finance committee recommend a plan for excess funds, whether it's the 199, whether it's the PPP monies, all those things. We really want to get it all cleaned up so that we have a balance sheet that makes sense to everybody, something that you can just look at and say, yes, that's what it is, instead of having it kind of a convoluted line items that I don't believe are necessary to have on there. But that being said, we're in good shape financially, especially with the PPP funds being realized as income with the forgiveness of the loan this year. That's all I have for now. And
Anything on facilities?
facilities, we have a lot to do, a ton to do. I did have a candidate lined up to take over as our building superintendent. Unfortunately, I was poaching my previous club when I did that, and they countered with a very aggressive offer to him to stay, and he chose to take that offer. So right now I'm back to square one on that issue, but that's a very high priority for me as well, so we can get a lot of these facilities projects in motion, which you'll see on the strategic action plan that are still been there for quite some time.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Ben, I got a question.
Yes.
If you don't mind.
Not like that.
So, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I need to know this.
So here we go.
So anyways, our COVID protocol, do we have one in the club? Is there something written that we follow? And what is going to be the procedure going forward for staff, employees? How are we, disinfecting, doing certain things in the dining room so people feel comfortable, coming into the dining room? And the second part of my question is, as far as buffets and salad bars, I think, as a club, should be eliminating that at this point.
We are currently phasing out all buffets and salad bars right now.
So, do you think we can get something posted, on the website or something to the membership of our,
Sure, I can communicate it in the flash. Yeah.
our protocol?
Mhm.
Also, we had the welcome back party.
Mhm.
Tell me about that. I mean, were we profitable as a club?
No,
I mean-
we're not.
I wouldn't say that we were profitable. We're were close to breaking even. There was a deficit on that event.
Yeah.
There was items that came up that, we were trying to just really make it a really special event for the members who attended.
You
Like I
think,
said,
like
philosophically, we
events-
can disagree on that.
Yeah, like events like that, I mean, like we discussed in the finance meeting, the events should be to a break even. And
That should be the goal.
not really an amenity. I mean, the restaurant's an amenity for these special events. We can only have like 200, 250 people at the most attend. And when it gets blocked off by the same amount of people, it's very difficult, for other members to come and take advantage of it. And people who can't come really shouldn't be penalized
Yeah,
if we
we
lose.
can't fit
lose
1234 in here. That's,
Right. A
it's
New Year's
never-
Eve party,
never happened.
how was that attended?
We took a beating on New Year's Eve because we had some COVID activity that day, and we had a lot of cancellations for that event that day of. And given in light of why people were canceling, we didn't feel that it was right to penalize them for that. So we didn't generate the revenue that we had hoped to.
How about, I know one last question.
Mhm.
Last board meeting, we talked about the roof and we talked about getting estimates. And you were hopefully gonna get maybe 2 or 3 estimates. Have we?
We've got the
gone down
first,
that
we got the first one in. We've got 2 more companies that we're gonna talk to about it. We got an estimate or Cathedral Roofing is working on an estimate for us currently. He's supposed to have that to me this week. We met with some members of Building and Grounds last Thursday, I believe it was,
Yeah.
and they did a full inspection. And so, yeah, we're working through that to get real numbers on what that actually is gonna take.
Okay, so Karen, real quick, I mean, could you, Ben and Karen, or you want me to do it, raise a motion that the PPP money and our surplus, or our PPP money in the underrun and overrun money we have, can we make a motion, whatever that is when we're audited, that goes into reserves?
That's what I'd like to see. That's not management's position to do that. That would be a motion from a board member. And you're
The
more than
finance
welcome.
committee needs to make that
And they
recommendation.
recommend to
And
us.
they're working on, it. We talked about it
Yeah.
Thursday.
But yeah, I'm 100% open to that. That's what I think should happen.
Thank you.
Could you repeat what Tom said?
Which part?
Give that to Karen, unless you,
I'll take care of it,
okay,
yeah.
thanks.
Mr. Farkas inquired if, when we did get the audited financials for 21, whether or not Karen and I, or I would make a motion on moving those surplus funds into reserves. And I replied that that's a function of the finance committee to make a recommendation and a board member to make a motion at a board meeting to move those funds.
And that will happen after the 2021 books have been audited.
Correct.
But we can't, could we raise a motion now to have that done when the audit is completed? Because
I mean, I
we
suppose
do
you raise a
know, we
motion, but
know.
you're not gonna have an exact figure.
Right.
Chris, the
It's up to the
finance
finance
committee
committee.
is working on that.
Yeah, but what Ben, I don't know if you caught what Ben said. What he said was
Yes.
that's not necessarily management's position.
That's
I think the
right.
finance committee will make a recommendation after discussion with Karen and Ben, and then they'll
It
come
will
to the
come to
board.
us.
Because I think he's got other issues he has to deal with as
Well,
well.
that's after the audit.
Yes, after the
Yes.
audit.
Yeah, after the audit, and the finance committee should be making that recommendation, and then the board should recognize that recommendation and pass it or not.
Yeah, and I think that the last finance committee meeting, a lot of wrinkles were straightened out. I think that we will have a good plan once we get audited.
Financial update?
Okay. Here's a question. Do we- I love using that lady.
Well, yeah, we're not taking questions right now. Thank you. Hold it for the end, please.
Is it on? Hello?
Yes.
Okay.
Just hold it.
Speak directly into it.
I have never really used the microphone, as you can tell.
So I want to say a couple things, something that Ben said about COVID. We in the administration office, we are a very small group and we have had a couple of sicknesses. So please be patient with us. If you're coming in with problems with your statement or you need a barcode, there's only 2 of us in there right now. And one of us is actually the person who does most of that. So be patient with her, okay? Number 2, the audit is scheduled for mid-February. So I just thought everyone might like to think about that. I thought I went to the first finance committee meeting last week. And because there was nothing in December and I thought it went very well. It's a great group of people with a lot of great ideas. So Ben and I are looking forward to working with everyone on the finance committee. I also want to say there were 10 home sales in the month of December. So I don't know if you keep track of that, but that's very exciting. And I'm going to just briefly go through the financials because there's a lot of information in a financial. I don't know if you've seen them, some of them, and without having to go through a lot of detail, I'm just going to point out just a couple things, okay? Number 1, our sales for the year were up about $60,000. That's pretty nice considering this was a COVID year. Remember, the budget was done during a COVID year, which means that the budget we were just shooting in the dark, okay? So I have to say kudos to the staff who made that happen. And then I'm going to just say that we've had some unexpected expenses in 2021, and I remember that I've only been here about 2 months, so I don't know all of them, but some things like labor was a problem in 2021. And food costs, because of the increased cost of wholesale food, fuel charges and so on, we were hit a little bit harder than we thought we were going to be. So we actually had a loss at the end of 2021 of $105,000. Remember, these are not audited, so there will be adjustments made to them. And like I said, the audit should be in mid-February. I also want to say I'm happy to be here, and it looks like a great group of people. So hopefully we'll have a very successful 2022.
Did you want to talk about moving the board meetings to the last Monday?
Yeah, should I do that or the finance committee's going to do that?
Okay. Are they going to make the recommendation? Okay.
But I might have to ask Chris. I don't know. I think he said he was going to do it.
All right. Well, it should be done today if we're going to move it for February. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
That's great. Okay.
You missed it. You got applause.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. You
Yeah.
got applause.
So, yeah, you did get, I'm sorry, I interrupted the applause.
Yeah, that's
So
not good.
thank you, Karen, very much.
We're glad to have you here, Karen.
Yeah, very much
Absolutely.
glad to have you here.
Thanks.
Okay. Under new business, we're going to move, Ben has got an item that we need to ratify.
Could I just have some questions for Karen?
Of course.
Karen, these are basic need to data questions. So the open items that I think a lot of members are thinking about is current disposition of the PPP money. Where is it in the financials that you made available to the board?
So PPP money was a loan that was given out to the government and then in some months passed and then it was forgiven, okay? And when according to the auditors, when it's forgiven, it's considered revenue, okay? So what is going to happen? The money the cash portion of that money went into our bank account, and the revenue portion will net out and retained earnings. So at the end of when these financials have been audited, you will see the net amount there in retained earnings. Okay, what does that mean? So think about it this way: we had $600,000 in extra revenue for the year 2021. That means $600,000 extra in cash. Okay, that's where it's sitting. And now it's up to the board to decide what to do with that.
We do have to pay tax on that.
And we do have to
It's
pay
taxable.
income tax. That's right. The government's going to get a little bit of that back. So
Same question for the underrun. Where does that show up in the financials?
that's also in cash. Okay, so same idea. They estimated there was going to be an underrun and not enough cash. And so they did an assessment. That money came in and it's sitting in cash to be used.
Related question, Blue Stream money, we received an upfront payment and it was kind of preparation for potentially having to pay CenturyLink. That's still out there as a risk. So you show that as a liability. Where does that show up in the balance sheet or the financials?
It is on the balance sheet. I don't know.
The terms that Blue Stream put around that 1.5 million.
There is a contract and there's no restrictions on it.
That's right.
So I'm not as familiar with Blue Stream as anybody here at this table. That's not something I.
Well, basically, Earl had that sequestered somewhere because we don't know if we have to pay it or not.
It
We haven't
is,
done
it is
anything
on the
with it.
balance sheet.
It's on-
Separate.
So it shows up as both a liability, but where does the asset show up? I didn't see it in the financials that you provided. That's what I'm asking.
It is it due, so Blue Stream, there's a potential issue where we may have to pay it back.
We may have to
Yeah.
pay CenturyLink. We're in litigation with
CenturyLink.
CenturyLink. So,
Yeah,
So it's in
which
under
is a
liabilities.
straight up incentive.
Straight
like, Gary, if I could please.
Yeah.
The way the contract was set up is when the group that worked on that looked at the risk that CenturyLink could potentially come back and say, look, we didn't violate the contract. You still owe us the remaining payments. As a hedge, that group recommended and the committee approved a contract that involved a upfront payment to Glen Eagle from Blue Stream. There was no mention of CenturyLink whatsoever. So happens the numbers kind of tie together. It's sort of like if you buy a car and they give you a cashback rebate in the beginning. So it was a front-loaded contract, but in all businesses, believe me, they didn't just give us the money. It's built into their price schedules for the 10-year agreement. So I was just wondering where that showed up in the financial statements, the 1 point.
In other liability.
Yeah.
So it's in other liabilities,
Yeah.
but where's the cash part of it? Because we received the cash, we have the money. I just didn't know where it showed up in the financials. That's all.
I would think, and I'm not sure, because I've not done a lot of, examination of that account or the information that you just provided. But I would assume it's in the money market account and drawing
I
interest.
believe that's what Earl said.
Yeah,
We'll check.
that's the largest account.
But you could get an answer,
Oh, for sure.
an email. right?
Yes,
So
yeah,
you
for sure.
have that?
All I have to do is look in the bank.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just haven't.
Good.
okay, back to back.
So the next item is a small one. There was a issue with the storage tent that is out in the kitchen receiving area. We needed a replacement for that in short order. So under the recommendation of Chef Chris and agreed to it, we got 3 bids and we spent $3,500 on a storage shed that's now completed and out in the receiving area.
So in December, we, because we weren't having a board meeting, we did a straw vote by email. And so
Correct.
today is the day to just to
Formalize it.
formalize that vote on that expenditure. So could you please also say where the cash came, which account it came out of?
Came from general capital.
General capital,
Yeah.
$3,500.
Yes, correct.
So I'll make
I
a,
would like to.
Can I
I'd like,
get that?
No.
So,
When we were given that, question, can we buy this? And I said, this is not what we'd agreed to. We're talking about a shipping container before,
Mhm.
Chef Chris. This came up. And I said, I don't think we should do it. We need to discuss it. He said, we've already purchased it. We shouldn't already purchase it if you expect the board to approve it. So I understand you're new
Fair
and he's
point.
never done it before, but in the future,
Yeah.
let's make sure the board agrees before we actually purchase it. Because we're gonna vote and say, no, now you're gonna ship it back. So,
Yeah, no, it's fair.
It's just to tie
yeah,
up the
I-
loose end because it was coming out of capital, but we did talk about the cart
I
before the
concur
horse.
with Chris on it, because the storage container would have been the best bet. I mean, all of a sudden, we get a hurricane, the storage shed is gone. Also, you said we get 3 bids. I found it for $400 cheaper, but yet we paid $3,500. Why? Number 2, my other question is, we had a storage container sitting in our parking lot, taking up 4 spaces. Is someone paying rent for our parking?
That'll be going away. That's UPS, I
Right.
believe, is using that for the season.
So who gave them okay to put the storage shed there, and we can't put a storage shed where we wanted it in, or put the storage shed, back in the maintenance area?
It's a good question.
I mean,
I
but
don't
I
have that
guess
information. in
We're
front of me.
looking for bids and we're trying to make people accountable for what they're doing. And all of a sudden, we're spending $400 more on that. We spend $1,000 more on this and that. And I think we gotta be accountable on bidding. I think in the finance meeting, you did say that we would going forward.
Yes,
make sure
I did.
that we have 3 bids on this particular contract.
Yes, sir.
Whatever.
But good. Just the same topic, the ideal solution in my mind, had we had a chance to discuss it and the board approved something, would have been a shipping container back in the maintenance area. We own a pickup truck that, as far as I understand, is just used at night to check for other pickup trucks.
So we could.
Kind of ironic,
Back and forth there.
but yeah, it certainly could be used to move equipment back there. It'd be out of the way and free up some space behind the kitchen.
Yep.
So you've already acknowledged we didn't do it as best as we could, so I will not beat that horse.
I was overly aggressive in my approach and
Well,
we'll
I
do
think,
better.
I think-
going forward.
I think Chris changed his mind. He wanted to ship a container as well. I thought it was a done deal. Then all of a sudden he sent out the picture of his playhouse. I was a little surprised.
I didn't make a recommendation over the Playhouse over shipping container. Made no difference to me, but
Okay. So we should still vote on that since there was funds expended from the general capital account.
Yeah.
So,
So would you like a motion?
yes, please.
I'll make a motion that we purchase or that we
so posthumously
Somebody we
approved.
paid for it. huh?
that we pay for
Yes.
the shed for the kitchen for Chef Chris.
A point of order, if we could just amend the motion, because it should reflect
Correct.
the dialogue that we had via emails, because I'll be voting no, because I voted no in those emails.
I voted no as well.
Well, when we vote, that's how you can vote.
But let's be clear what we're voting on. If we
We're-
vote no, we're not saying we shouldn't pay our bills. We're voting no because that was the discussion that was had regarding this item.
So my motion is not clear to you. You want me
I'm
to
asking
make
you to
it more
restate
clear?
it, and I'm not going to state a motion I'm going to vote against.
Okay. I'm making a motion that we purchase the storage shed for Chris, for our chef Chris, that is housed adjacent to the kitchen for $3,500
For funds to come from the general capital account.
from the general capital. Yes.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
Second.
I think this requires a roll call
Yes, it
vote.
does.
And I'll start over here.
Before you can,
Yes,
let's be clear though, those are gonna come out of 2021 capital, not
that's right.
2022.
That is correct. And I'll make note of that. Okay, let's start here. Mr. Lloyd, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Lendrick?
Yes.
Mr. Farkas?
No.
Mr. Sutton?
No,
Mr. Lazidas?
Yes. Tough one.
Mrs. Blanche?
Yes.
Mrs. Card votes yes.
5 to 2.
5 to 2. Thank you.
And this month, we have 8 ARCs that came to us for January. Is there a motion to approve or deny the ARCs?
I'll make a motion that we approve the 8 ARCs for January that were presented to the board and review.
Do I have a second on that, please? Second by Mr. Lendering.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Those are the November ARCs.
Those are the
December.
those are the January ARCs.
My sheet is unreadable because all of the December and the January are together and the dates don't reflect which is which. So
They don't. And then in December, there were 6 ARCs that we voted by email in absence of a board meeting. So we want to formally ratify the 6 ARCs from December. I will make a motion that we approve those ARCs.
I'll second the motion for the December 6 ARCs, seconding the motion.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving the ARCs from December, there are 6 of them, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Great.
Thank you.
ARCs approved.
One question again, and talk about Kenya of the ARC that was never submitted, but the person, put their generator tank in the ground, and we haven't done anything, and that happened back on December 7th, and it was
You can
addressed by,
You can send a letter or
Or HOA.
or fine or both.
is our HOA, spoke to you about that,
Mhm.
and so did Tom Priest. So if we don't have any formal art, why do we have to go through it? If anybody can do what they do, especially something that particular, I mean,
They shouldn't.
well, yeah, so why do we have an art process then? And
But doesn't that person still have to submit all the ARC paperwork so that
It's
we have it
already
on
done.
record? I understand that, but that's happened before as well, but we've always gone back and asked the resident.
December 2nd, it's been in.
We've asked the resident to submit the ARC form. Tom, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but they have to submit the ARC form with the plan
Well,
and the
is
permits
Tom
and
in
all
here?
that so that we have them.
So
Tom
Tom, has
Price.
it been
But Florida
submitted?
law allows that whether we do or don't, whether we do or not.
No, but we have
That's not-
HOA
so we'll put-
ARC rules that we want to follow.
Did he answer?
Tom was answering.
I'm sorry, Tom.
Tom,
But it really wasn't filled out properly, and he was very disrespectful to Mr. Farkas and Mr. Kate Hinchman, and it just wasn't handled properly. And I agree with Mr. Farkas that something should be done.
Okay.
Something should have been done, and, either a letter going out or should go out, and maybe even be fined under the,
Yeah, I thought that we were pursuing that with,
We can fine or send a letter.
okay, let's take that offline then
Okay.
and pursue that because, yeah, but I still think even if the ARC wasn't, tell me if I'm wrong, if the ARC wasn't handled correctly, we should still have the corrected paperwork on file. In case the property is sold, you have to track back, we want to have everything all in order. I know I would want that if I was purchasing that home.
but it just never has been approved either locally and or by UMass.
Okay, Kate, do you agree that we should have a corrected ARC?
I do, but that's, the reason why we thought this was a master situation that should be addressed, because it goes back to the very old specs. So, at some point, we have to figure out what they are. The other thing is that we actually might be asked that when it's still on his front yard, not to do it without our warrant being extradited. And in addition to not pretty much on property, people who couldn't stop it. So maybe
Yeah. Yeah, if you live in an HOA, you can't do whatever you want. So, I mean, yeah, okay, we'll take this one.
Well, and the ARC has the teeth to send that letter and to fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Strategic action plan. Okay. Okay.
Another presentation I wasn't aware of.
And we don't want it to happen again.
I need 100,000 and then I'll be good.
So I just wanted to briefly review the action items that were based on the strategic plan.
Hey, Ben, do you have this shared for the Zoom people as well? Are you
Oh, thank you.
comfortable with the share function?
Yep.
If they just were right on top of it, they would benefit hugely. Share screen, green,
Green. Got it.
and then you're gonna have to share and then choose what you're sharing. There you go. Perfect.
I apologize. I was a go-to-meeting guy in my past life. So yeah, everybody at home should be able to see what's up on our screen as well. The first section were all these items that were presented, I suppose, to Earl, and those were completed as far as I've been told.
Karen, at some point, if you could just verify those, that
Yeah.
you agree, you're in agreement with the work that was done, that would be for, because we want to do this quarterly,
Mhm.
and when we do it again in April,
Mhm.
then that, if you wouldn't
Yeah,
mind.
for the record, that would be.
Yeah, that would be probably a good thing. Thank you.
So,
got the background? Do you want me to get the background? I was.
If you could, please, yeah, because I wasn't present for that.
So real quickly, the background behind this is we had a strategic planning committee that worked with the community, collected feedback, conducted a survey in the fall of 2019. And it also included, I believe, some focus groups where we're understanding where we're at with the club. When we put together all those concerns, we found that a lot of the issues had to do with more operational, tactical things that just need to be addressed. Loose ends that had slipped through the cracks for whatever reason. So those were worked through by the staff, by the management staff, and by that committee, and later presented to the board saying, these are the things that need to get done. Some of them involve capital, most of them just involve operational excellence and paying attention to things and shifting the existing resources. So that is what the strategic action plan was. And if you all remember our good friend Jack Sullivan, he was the one who guided us through the process. And this was, I think, a very valuable deliverable along with the mission statement that the strategic planning group developed. But this is something that we said, yep, these are all things we as a community said need to be addressed. And they were sorted by department. So I'll turn it over to our general manager, Ben.
Dave, just so that we might mention the yellow, the green and the red so that people understand.
Green is good. Yellow is we're working on it. Red is what the heck's going on here?
Yeah. Thank you.
A couple of red items still on here that we're trying to get into process. I mean, a big chunk of this is, like Mr. Sutton said, tactical or operational items that really need to be addressed by our maintenance department, which, as I alluded to earlier, is not yet complete. These items are what I'll be charging him with specifically. A lot of these items, Lane has on his radar as well. And he continues to do a great job. A couple of highlights here. We do have the improvements to the radio road wall, which is now in process. We, due to COVID, the specific columns that we needed for that wall were not available. They weren't being manufactured by the company that Conroy, yeah, that they used. They just started production and fabrication on those again last week. So now with those items being produced, they're gonna get right on our project as it was previously discussed.
I think it's also important to note that the committees have been very steadfast in their commitment to the objectives that they own. And they've been very, very good about reporting out on their objectives at the monthly board meetings. But it's still, this is sort of the house where they all live. So it's just a good reminder every quarter to go
Yeah, just for
over
everybody to
these.
take a look at it. yeah.
Exactly, and for you to get up to speed on them as well. But as the committee chairs give their updates today, if they have any additional information that they want to share, we would encourage that. But
Yes, please do.
an ongoing thank you to the committees because they have been paying very close attention to their objectives and they've been doing a great job in keeping their eye on the ball. So
Another big one under building and grounds is the improving the roadways and the parking lots and restriping. I'm working with Blair Foley to update the quote that was given to us by them last year because the quote that we got, quite frankly, was incomplete, didn't really include the entire scope of work that we're looking to do. So they're working on that for us now.
So Ben, on the roadways, what roadways exactly are we talking about? The parking lot, the main road?
Exactly.
Yes.
How about like Provincetown, is that included in repaving?
Yes,
Is Harwich included in paving?
yes.
I mean, how about Addison?
Addison.
It's
So
about
why
everything
does,
but
why,
condos.
so why, oh, okay, so they have to pay for it, across the way they pay for it.
Yeah, everything else is our responsibility.
So what are we talking for roadways here? About $1 million?
Well,
$1.2 million?
If you do all, it's more than that, but they don't all need to be resurfaced. And that's what this.
If you
that
did the
study-
entire thing, yeah, that'd be close to that.
That was the fallacy in Blair Foley's report. They really didn't tell us what we really wanted to know.
But he said most of the roads are good for the next 3 to 5 years, so they don't have to be done now.
But they also didn't include the striping.
They
Right.
include striping. And I didn't actually.
And I think we gotta, our crosswalks need to be,
Yes.
that
things-
gotta be addressed.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, so they're updating on this for us.
And a lot of that money actually is in the reserve study. It's not.
Right.
As much as it should be yet, but there's a lot of money there.
So many of these have been addressed. Water movement through the property. As best as I can tell, was the major issue that was right out back here. And that was trenched out and drained into the lake, and that's all in good shape. Lane has all these things on his radar as far as aquatic vegetation. Lake banks is a really big one, especially out in Addison Reserve. We don't really have a plan for that yet, but we're aware that it's a big issue that needs to be addressed.
And that could be a big cost
Could be,
to the club.
Yeah.
I mean, along with the roadways
correct, yes.
and the roof. So, we're talking neighborhood of almost
Look,
$2.5 million.
There's a lot of deferred maintenance
Yeah.
that's
But
happening.
it's not 2.5 million, but a lot of it's in reserves, but the stuff for Addison will not be in reserves because it wasn't just a capital asset. But
This is
I think
the-
this time we gotta do it right.
This is the existing lake problem?
Well,
This
it's
was never
happening.
They've already fixed twice, yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
Fix it.
when the golf course was renovated, it wasn't done right. We had someone else come in.
We
Still
fixed
isn't
it
done right.
twice.
Huh?
We fixed it twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's two different
It's
contractors.
still,
And it's happening in other parts of the community as well.
Yes. there's-
So it could be a real issue.
Yeah, we got
Yeah,
erosion
money-
in a lot of the area banks.
I wouldn't even like to venture a
I
guess
mean,
on it.
that could affect our members' dues. Because if we don't have enough capital.
Well, if we need to assess
Yeah, yeah.
capital, then yeah.
Yeah, so it's a big thing to think about before we move forward to other projects.
Yeah, very,
One
very,
of the
very
reasons we
possible.
never touched the PPP money. We knew
Which
these
is-
things were coming up.
but that's why it's on the plan, so that
That's right.
we're keeping track of it.
Chris, are the bridges on the reserve, all the bridges on reserve?
Yes, they
study?
are.
They are.
I think 3 are scheduled to be done this year. I don't think they need to be. We're gonna reject them, I think. But Lane's having engineers come in to make sure the infrastructure is good, and I don't think he's got them here yet.
Okay.
But the plan will be to redeck several of the bridges.
Okay.
So these are all board of directors items here as far as club governance goes. Big one that we still haven't read is establishing a nominating committee to identify candidates to serve on the board, which I think is an important item. And it's a best practice as far as governance
It's a
goes.
best practice for SUR. It's against Florida state law. Anyone that owns property here could be on the board. You don't have to be nominated.
Just
by
Oh,
the
yeah, you,
committee.
you can't preclude anybody from
Right,
it,
okay.
but you can have a nominating committee say, these are candidates that we've vetted and, they've had the committee experience, they've had experience on other boards, so they understand how these things work. And anybody else can still self-nominate. You're not telling anybody no, just by having that committee in place. And it's really more of an ad hoc committee. It wouldn't, in my opinion, it wouldn't be a standing committee. Another item we still haven't read to discuss, reestablishing the Glen Eagle President's Council to facilitate coordination and communication with the community. I've had a couple of members approach me on that recently. Also, just so that we're getting as much information out to each neighborhood as much as possible. I think that's really important as well.
Yeah, I think that's an important one for us to really take a look at this year and see about, because I think all neighborhoods want to make sure that they have a voice, that they feel like they are being represented. And I think that to have a clear direction of what the presidents or the vice presidents in each neighborhood would need to do to contribute to this council, because there are a lot of neighborhoods where the presidents work extremely hard on behalf of their neighborhood and don't have a lot of extra time. But at the same time, as a group and coming together and sharing best practices with each other. We have some neighborhoods that are much more active with their property manager companies than others. And I think that just having more exposure to you and you to them, I think will make for a more cohesive communication vehicle,
Yeah, and the
especially
sooner-
if there
the
are
sooner the
large
better, I think.
projects that are like roadways and things like that. Like the town halls that are coming up, that was part of the reason, like in lieu of the President's Council having neighborhood volunteers. So I think that that's one that we definitely want to try to give some time. There was a lot of reasons why we didn't get to it this year. So, but it's still on the plan. And
Something we should move up. probably in
absolutely,
priority.
yes.
I want to echo that. I think that council could be a
Invaluable.
very
Yeah.
valuable,
It could be a great tool for
Information
me,
source.
Yes.
and there are
Yes.
That I don't even know that I don't know yet.
and there are purchasing economies of scale they could achieve through
Mhm.
bulk
Sure.
buying a mulch, painting, whatever.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of
Bidding
good
on
benefits that we
contracts
could
and-
achieve
yeah.
out of that council. So I think we should move forward in getting that thing up and running.
Yeah, totally agree. So membership, some of these things are a little interesting to me, just especially being a Sierra Club. I don't know how much we really need to invest in promoting externally. I mean, the memberships sell themselves. It's important to have somebody who's a, membership, manager or coordinator that makes sure that all of our processes and procedures are going well and assisting, renters and tenants. And I think that, Dyrus and Karen do a fantastic job of doing that. So I'd be curious what the board's view is.
So Ben,
On that specifically?
On that, being on the communications committee, the top four, I don't think they fall under, and Joanne, if she's here, or Joan, can maybe correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think they should fall under communications in.
No, that should be management. I think.
And the fourth one from the bottom, 67, I don't think that should be part of communications. And I think if they correct me if I'm wrong, I think everything else we've kind of completed.
Yeah, more or less, yeah.
Then your
Got a
committee
couple
would
of
want to
things that's-
submit, yeah, if it's yellow, it should go to green, then your committee would want to submit a green status for
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll send this out to all the committee chairs
Mhm.
and they can give me feedback on where they think the status is on some of these things that I may not know.
I think it's also important to point out that Karen is playing such a dual role. Karen Dixon is playing such a dual role
In
here.
both accounting and membership.
In both accounting and membership, and
Mhm.
Dyrus picks up an awful lot of the slack. Dyrus is hired as a receptionist, but she does an awful lot of the membership activities as well. So one of the things that we might want to think about is having more clear-cut definition of who's actually doing what when members have questions about any of their membership activities. Because, and then we have Paige on the website side as well. So I think we probably could give a little thought to that also, because Karen is, thankfully, she's been with us for 6 years and she's doing all the AP and the AR as well as a lot of the membership.
Yeah, she's a champ.
Yeah,
She's doing
she
a great
is.
job back there.
She's very helpful. I won't do that.
So the rest of these items are more, operational with food and beverage. Spoke to these a bit in my general manager's report. A lot of these things, the processes need a lot of specifics added to them, the steps of service,
But then, yellow, I think is actually, if somebody's is generous,
Mhm.
and I think you know what I'm talking about, right? We've got to do better.
I agree.
And I think that yellow is optimistic.
I didn't change anything from yellow to red. That's how I received it.
Right, but I
But,
mean,
yeah,
you agree that there's some things that we still have a ways to go.
for sure.
87, market green.
Oh, yeah, that's done.
Yep, we can mark that green.
So the dress code, who's responsible?
Should,
The
the discussion
dress code,
should
if we
start
have
at the
a
House and Restaurant Committee.
What's that?
The discussion should start at the House and Restaurant Committee.
Because the only thing is, we get, all the board members get an email regarding New Year's Eve. inappropriate
Mhm.
dress. And I didn't see any response from any of the board members and why it wasn't addressed, because our, either,
I addressed it internally. There's
but
a,
either, our staff needs to be trained how to diffuse and how to,
well, in
take
special
care of
events
certain.
especially, it needs to be marketed more accurately. I don't think it was communicated properly.
Yeah, but T-shirts are never allowed in the dining room.
No,
And they were that night. And the reason I didn't see any of it, I went and spoke to Carrie about it to find out what really happened.
And it was discussed in the house restaurant.
Yes, it was. It was
Yes,
discussed
it
at the
was.
Food and Beverage Committee meeting. Yeah. So clarification on dress code for special events. Referring back to, the dress code is on the website and that,
well, and
t-shirts,
for
shorts and
special
hard-
events, it's never T-shirts.
Never.
But really, it's conditional also as far as how.
But it's
formal
never a
it is.
T-shirt in the dining room. Is
You're
it
correct.
But that did
Or
happen.
at the bar.
But that
So
did
it shouldn't even
happen.
be a question.
Right. So
No, it shouldn't happen.
no, it shouldn't have happened. So, and Carrie's aware of it, and she's also aware that, staff empowerment is a big part of having, feeling like you can enforce it appropriately.
And it's always enforcing the dress code is always a touchy subject. It shouldn't fall on the servers or the wait staff to do it. It really needs to be addressed by a supervisor or a manager.
That's
I don't feel like a frontline employee should be put in that position to try to correct a member directly.
So on golf, so 95 isn't yellow, 96 isn't yellow, and 98 isn't yellow, I don't believe. I mean,
Yeah, those
We don't-
those have been addressed.
It's 90
Or
We have a Greens Committee, so it's 99.
well, we don't have a driving range. So that's
yeah. Yeah, and it's not yellow, I mean, we're not
So you
doing
think it's
anything about
red?
it.
It's red.
Yes.
Mhm.
Short game area, same thing. Now that may change depending on what happens with the RMC, but right now they're red.
Mhm.
And as far as,
Chris, if it's being discussed, it's yellow.
It's still the driving range is not, but short game area, things like that, those can still be under,
to me, yellow means it's being worked, it's not being worked.
to me, yellow means it's still on the radar, so it may be somewhere in between. But I don't think we want to discount it completely. Correct me.
But I'm just saying, it looks more optimistic, I think, than what's really happening, that's all.
99, you can definitely put green, because we did establish a greens
Yeah,
committee.
that happened.
Cart safety is still a problem. I think cart safety is,
Card safety, yes.
Yeah.
Building and grounds,
Building
looking
and
at
grounds,
that.
yeah,
We're looking at that.
that's a tough one.
You gotta build a flyover. wall.
A drone cart, that's what we.
Yeah.
Staffing, most of these issues I have not gotten into with a lot of detail yet. I think the most important ones are establishing the employee orientation process so that everybody understands why they're here and who we are. And I think that can rectify a lot of the issues that we have in the operations as well. And then an employee satisfaction survey is something you're seeing a lot in private clubs now, so I'm glad that was included. And that's something that we can do internally, that we don't need to, find any type of specialized vendor to conduct that. This wasn't on my desktop, but this one was.
Yeah, I don't
I'm not sure what happened there. Anyhow, so I'll open it up to further questions. I know already kind of asked as we were going through. Is there anything else for me on where we're at?
I think if you look at this, there's, the members should look and say, yeah, I remember putting that in the survey. Yes, that is something that we agree to. It should be worked on. A lot of this frankly falls to you, but a lot of it does fall to the committees. And I think Mrs. Blanche made the point earlier, and I'd like to reiterate it. If it falls to a committee, that should be part of the committee's discussion. Because this is a mandate from the membership saying, look, we recognize this is a problem. And so if your committee is not working on all this stuff, please do. If you are working on it, thank you.
We're good.
And I think the other thing, if it makes sense, you could always ask the department managers to come to the update as well, since they have some responsibility for some of the operational pieces
Yeah,
of it.
that'd be a useful.
It
practice,
probably
yeah.
would be good for Lane and Carrie and Andy to come and talk to the membership, because I know they're working on these things, but this is probably not on their desktop as top of
Right.
mind every day. So it might be nice to give them a voice at the meeting once in a while. So maybe we can put a placeholder in there to have them come for the April
For the
one.
agenda for the
Yeah.
meeting. Yep,
Okay,
I'm okay with that.
all right, good. Question?
Yes, I wanted to ask about funding for these initiatives. There's a lot of things on this, things that relate to committees, but there's also funding required for them. And nobody has had that discussion. So as committees, we're struggling with, we want to move forward with some of these things, but the funding questions are coming up now, and we need guidance and direction from the board. So it's nice to mark these red, green, and yellow, but the funds need to be discussed related to this, and that's an issue that has not been addressed.
Sharon, could you just identify yourself too? Because I'm not, because we've had a couple of texts from members saying if members of the audience, when they speak, if they could say who they are.
Sure, I am Sharon Sutton, I'm the co-chair of the Building and Grounds Committee.
Thank you.
So
And I'm
we
the- I'm
have
the-
some issues on this on this list, and we want to bring forward, but funding is an issue, and the board needs to address where those are, and how we're going to move forward, if they're still moving forward in 2022, or if they're being put on hold because they're not in the budget. So that's valuable input we need from the board.
I'm gonna repeat the question. I'll do it on the microphone first and hope everybody online can still hear. The comment was from Sharon Sutton, who's the co-chair of the Building and Grounds Committee. And it was in reference to a lot of the items that you saw on the spreadsheet, in relation to building and grounds. And there aren't necessarily funds earmarked. And the biggest issue is the operational items. Capital ones, we're able to talk about as a board and earmark some of those funds to do those type of bigger projects, but the operational ones really were not included in the 22 budget. So something to discuss for the board.
Chris, during the budget process, did you not put it out to the committees to say if you were going to need
Well,
money for
I was gonna
2022?
announce it at
or-
a board meeting that if anyone needs budget money,
Yes.
we need to know, put in the budget. And also we asked the liaisons to say, talk to your committees, if things they want to do that cost money, we need to know to get them in the budget. Once the budget is done, the budget's done. That's why at the budget meeting, I said, there are no capital improvements planned for this year because there aren't any.
Yeah, but there was limited
Well,
for the
there-
communications committee because you did request some money.
They requested money and we gave them money.
I request.
Yes, you
But I
did.
mean, now we're in a situation where it's not in the budget. So what does building and grounds do? I mean, do they just sit there, because it's not,
We have underrun money and we have the PPP money that is gonna go into retained earnings.
but that's gonna go, no, that's gonna go in
Well, it's-
reserve.
It's gonna go where we say it's gonna go. I know we had this
Well,
conversation.
see, that's not the right.
It's, no, that's what the finance committee is going to
First of all,
discuss.
PPP money, if it flows down the
Yep.
right way, it really belongs to the members if we look at it and we can
Well,
give every
So
member
should we get it back
back
and then ask for the
$500.
money back so we can do things with it?
Well, we could, and that's why it's gotta go into
Okay,
reserves.
Well, and we have to vote on that, but we have to, at the finance committee, we asked for what's the proper way of processing this money? Right?
Mhm.
And you and Michelle came up with a plan and we're gonna talk about the next finance committee meeting. But regarding the things that need to be done, the committees have to come forward with a plan, submit it, and see if we can get funding for it, because we're not clairvoyant. I mean, if no one asks, we don't know.
So if the committees want to get bids,
What's that?
You did email for me at budget time, and Joanne and Draco sat down and met with you personally, and those things did not get in the budget, so that's not a true statement.
Well, you didn't have a proposal, right? I mean, can't you say I need money?
I sent it in.
And you
you're not
got
talking
yours.
about.
You
you're
got
talking about-
yours.
Okay,
The
so
video.
I think Sharon's question is if there are now projects that the committees need funding, What do they do? What are the steps? What's the process they're gonna follow? They need to identify what the project is. They need to solicit bids on how much it's going to cost to accomplish the project,
Right.
and then submit it to the finance committee and make a recommendation to the board to see whether or not there are ways of funding that money. I mean, we've got to put a process in place.
So fixing the entryway should be maintenance, and we should be able to find the money for that. The only number I heard from when I talked to Joanna Draco was the guy was thinking $175,000, and that's not quite where we are yet. So what we need is a process that says,
Okay.
here's what we need, here's our estimates, here's what it's going to cost.
Also, in regards to building and grounds specifically, there are plug numbers with the operational monies to do routine maintenance. Now, it may not be enough to do all the things on here, but I think we'll be able to do some of them with those monies.
And one of the problems with that is that we kept telling the GM to increase those budgets, and he didn't, right?
But you can't, when you have a budget set, you can't take funds from this area and move it to this area just to make things work. If we have a budget set, say, I'm just throwing this out because this is what I know, advertising $100,000, and we use 50,000, we can't take that extra 50 and say we're gonna use it.
And I'm not talking about
Yeah.
those type of numbers. I'm
Okay,
talking
but
about
you know what I'm
repairs and
saying?
maintenance,
You
yeah.
can't be moved. And next year you start your budget at 50,000.
Yeah.
Not at 100. So we gotta be careful where all those funds you get moved around, because that's been the practice at this club.
Has it?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
I'm not sure I agree with that statement. but-
It's that 143,000 you deducted from the budget this year.
Could you wait to be called on, please? Chris, Carl, you have a question?
I'm just a little confused.
Could you identify?
Could you identify yourself, please, to the member, to the audience? Thank you.
Hey, I'm Carl Wilson. I'm just a little confused. We had a budget about 4 weeks ago formulated. Myself asked questions about the budget. I felt the budget was very aggressive. I know two board members voted no against the budget because there was no capital improvement line items in the budget. And I find it really strange that like 4 or 5 weeks after a budget, we're now sitting here discussing, we don't have any additional funds for these projects at Buildings and Grounds, and other committees are asking for. And then you're saying that nobody put anything in. But didn't that ring an alarm bell with anybody saying, hey, committees, management, board members, nobody is asking questions, that we have nothing in this budget for capital improvements? And because I attended Buildings and Grounds this week, and there is a laundry list of things that need to be done, and there's no funding. So where's that money coming from? We have lake erosions on the banks. I don't know, could cost $10,000, could cost $250,000. But where is the foresight? And then next week, we're going to have a roadmap presentation on future plans of the club, which I'm not against. But what I'm against is if we don't think in the future fiscally responsibly with the money we've got, because we're sitting here 4 weeks after a budget meeting saying we didn't plan any money for any capital improvements. That doesn't make any sense to me why nobody on this board, well, actually 2 board members did question it, why nobody didn't question this more.
We questioned it and actually brought it up in the budget meetings and brought it up in the budget briefing that
But
there's
if
nothing in
you've got
there.
this, hold on, if you've got this here, strategic action plan here, all these items that need to be done, and all you guys sitting at this table, we're all well aware of this. Why did not you guys turn around and say, hey, where's the money coming from? Just like Sharon's asking for, and this budget doesn't reflect any money. Yet we're sitting over here about to present a roadmap plan to our members saying, these are the improvements we want to do. Yet we're not even budgeting for the general maintenance that we have to do in the club. That to me is not responsible.
Ben, do you think that's a fair statement that we haven't budgeted for general maintenance?
Well, I think it's a fair statement, because what's gonna happen, like I said, the membership is gonna get double whacked.
Well, I think that's up to him to answer that question, don't you? I mean, I'm not sure that's a fair statement, so I want you to have a chance to.
Well, I don't want to mislead everybody and say that there's no money to take care of operational issues on the buildings and grounds. There is.
How much?
Well, I mean, I don't know the budget number off the top of my head.
There's only about 1.2 million.
I've been listening.
Wait a minute, John.
for 3 months.
And for 3 months, they've been talking about how to have all this extra money, and now he's saying we don't have any money. You should be planning for how to use the money. The finance committee should be asking people, what do we have to spend? Not sitting there saying you didn't tell me. That's bullshit.
They were asked, and don't talk like that here, you can leave. Don't swear.
John, you need to behave, please.
Refrain from clapping so we can hear the board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John.
Refrain from clapping so we can hear the board.
Oh,
Yeah.
So like I said, there is operational funds in the admin budget to take care of repairs and maintenance, and in the food and beverage budget to take care of repairs and maintenance of buildings.
I'd like to apologize for my use of the word bullshit.
Thank you, fair enough.
It was not necessary. However, I am expressing my sincere frustration of listening to all of this. It's not your fault. It belongs to the whole group. Somebody should be budgeting for monies that we have to spend. We're talking about spending $21 million for a new plan.
No, we're not, John. No, we're not. Don't start.
No. What it is, the architect told me it was going to cost 21 million.
All right, stop. I'm gonna gavel,
That's
no,
if you
John,
get it tomorrow.
John,
The
stop.
point is, we're talking about spending huge amounts of money, and we're not addressing the $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 of maintenance issues that we need to fix. We don't need to fix them 3 years from now, we need to fix them now.
but
Can I respond?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Please.
That's what I intend to do completely. I'm going to do the best that I can with the monies that I have allocated this year. And I plan to have an exhaustive repair and maintenance budget for as much as we possibly can.
But within-
Open-ended maintenance budget,
Look,
not
I'm not trying to make any excuses up here, and that's not the way I do business. But we were looking to complete this budget within 14 days after my first day here at the club.
I do know.
Okay, so I apologize if it's not exactly what it's supposed to look like. All I can do is go forward and try to make it the best I can.
you know,
So Ben,
what this gentleman said, he is correct in saying about, you know, the plan coming out for 21.6 million. And in that plan, you know, that was, you know, set up by whatever group put it together. But, you know, in that plan, it also says the plan is gonna be offset by using PPP money.
No, it said it
loose money.
can be.
No,
Is it
there's,
different?
there's
Doesn't
no,
say it. It
there's
says
no
2.6
decision there,
million
Tom. There's nothing been
offset the
decided.
$20,000.
There's no, it's a
Okay,
concept.
we need other.
It's a concept. It's not a plan, it's a concept. It's really not on the
Yeah, this really
agenda.
doesn't have anything to do with what
No,
we're talking about.
really doesn't.
So Ben, I have a question for you. You said that you didn't necessarily agree with how, one approach of getting the PPP money and stuff. What do you think we should do with it?
Well, according to my previous experiences, it's realized as income and it gets offset to whatever surplus or deficit you have at the end of your operational year.
But that would flow into operations and you could be used for other things if you
It
chose.
could be refunded to the membership, it could be funneled into reserves. You could create a risk mitigation fund for,
You could fix things.
yeah. There's a lot of different things you can do with that. So.
Which is why we didn't spend it.
Which is why we didn't spend it. No, I know, really, don't you?
Mahalik has a comment.
Where were we before we got sidetracked?
We were finishing up on the strategic action plan, so we're not quite at open member comments yet, but
We still have all the committee.
Yeah, we still have committee updates.
no, we still have committee updates, so we're not at member open comments yet. This is not the member forum. We still need to do committee updates. So if it's a quick question, Greg, please do it. Otherwise, we need to move on. This is Greg Mahalik, by the way.
In all this discussion with PPP funds, and it's now being moved to reserves, and the board has the ability to spend it as they see fit. What if we spend the money and down the road, the government determines that our unuse of the money did not meet the requirements of the program, and they want the money back? Where will those funds come from?
Karen, is that about to happen?
No.
It's not going to happen, right? Can we put that to bed once and for all?
Yeah, so let me explain.
There's conversation about that.
Yeah.
Aren't you meeting with Wells Fargo?
Okay,
We already
simply
have.
put, okay, the PPP funds were given to us so that we could survive the pandemic. And we were lucky in the state of Florida because we are so club driven and the club revenue, 95% of all revenue in a club is dues. And if you don't pay your dues, you'll lose your house, right? That's the law. So that's why when the second round of PPP money came around, they said, sorry, you guys can't do that. It's not the same as up north where there were actually stores and stuff who were closed down because of the pandemic, okay? So that money, while you guys keep saying it's a $605,000 extra cash, is not really the case. The case was we used those funds to operate, right, last year. Okay, now, I can't earmark a dollar for a dollar. All I can tell you is that those funds were used. They were used for payroll. In fact, these people who are currently out on COVID right now are also, we're still providing those services, right? And that is coming, you know, I hate to use that terminology coming out of PPP money because that's not really the case. That PPP money was given to all the clubs so that we could continue to operate, and we did. But we were lucky because dues is 95% of our revenue and they don't change, okay? So now we have this opportunity. So really what it was for us last year, as all clubs here in the state of Florida, is income. Okay, we're gonna get taxed on it and it flows through into retained earnings, and then we can make decisions about where the money needs to go. And you know, what we really need to be looking at right now is how are we funded in capital and deferred maintenance for this place? Are we underfunded for deferred maintenance? Because a 30-year-old building is gonna start falling apart. Are we ready? Look at the lake banks, they're very expensive. Robes are very expensive. Are we funded there? If we're not funded there, then maybe that $600,000 would be a good place to put there. That's my opinion.
Thank you.
But can we say once and for all that the government is not going to take the money back that we were,
Yeah, we use the money and.
we got it legitimately, we haven't misappropriated it.
No.
Okay.
And it was also payroll, and it was leases, rents, there were a couple other things, so.
Well, we were under in revenue for golf, $300,000.
Yep.
Okay. So some of the issues we had, we had to make minimum wages for the people working in the restaurant. That was $51,000. But we also were short almost $300,000 of revenue from the golf course because we were shut so long. So that money had to come from somewhere. Now we use it from other places. The PPP money will replenish that.
Yes,
So fortunately, we also underran a couple budgets. So.
Okay. So I think the point is we are aware of it. It's been raised several times. The finance committee is aware of it. The board is aware of it.
But to Greg's point, we were scared to use that money.
We
We
were.
were afraid we have to pay it
But
back.
the PPP money,
But now we know that we don't, so we don't really need to keep asking that
the
question.
PPP money should have been used as a line item. And we should have set a separate line on our balance sheet, and we should have ran that through in the question.
We did have it as a separate.
We did
line.
have a separate as it's,
Because it runs.
but we didn't hear until April or May that the loan had been forgiven, so we didn't dare touch it, Tom.
That was part of the law. to
Yeah,
do that.
so that's right. So we follow the law. So all right, we need to move on to committee updates. It's 4:30, so we need to keep going.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
all right. First up is the sports committee. Is Donna DePrima here or is she online?
She's right there.
She's here. Oh, great. Hi, Donna.
Okay, open ping pong started. It's on Tuesday and Thursday
Hold
morning.
the mic up.
Oh,
Here.
yeah.
Donna, thanks.
Open ping pong,
Yeah, just like a lollipop, right there.
open ping pong started. It's on Tuesday and Thursdays, 9 to 10 a.m. The bocce coordinator, Catherine Finney, started mid-December. Schedules are published in Play Pass. There are 60 bocce teams with approximately 360 players. The couples leagues filled up very quickly, limited to 12 teams per league because of the number of bocce courts. This past Saturday, we had a refresher bocce practice for new players as well as for people that just wanted some assistance. When I opened up our locked box, I found out that 2 sets of bocce balls were taken from 2021 season. We had purchased 2 new ones for this season, but 2 of the sets from last year were taken. I don't know how, I don't know who. I hadn't opened the box since November.
And would they please be returned?
Yes, we're asking, no questions asked, just return them. Fitness, the Tuesday yoga instructor will be having surgery in February, and the Monday instructor will cover for her. The tennis pro quit in December. Ben has been working with the USTA trying to fill the position. He has 3 possible candidates, and he's going to work with 2 members of the sports committee who play tennis to review the candidates. Jean, the instructor for water aerobics, will be out indefinitely, but someone is filling in for her. That's all I
Great,
have.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Marge?
Yeah.
Do you pick up the microphone?
I'm
and just-
sorry.
Yeah, that's quite all right.
Usually can hear me.
Just do right, yeah.
This is my report from the House and Restaurant Committee. The Debbie cooking equipment is ordered. However, due to the current economic climate and the existing equipment shortages, it's taking longer than anticipated to receive these items. They are on order though. The committee is encouraged by the response for the food for thought and comment card responses being submitted by the membership. So if you're filling these out, please keep them coming because we are looking at them and we are trying to address any issues that you're bringing up. We're currently working on putting together a survey of the entire membership to obtain additional input on what the membership would like to see and how we as a committee can encourage even more membership to use the existing dining facilities. The committee would also like to thank Ben Elwell for his encouragement, support, and input, and Dave Sutton as well. He's our liaison. That's it.
Thank you.
Is Charlie Healy here or is he
No,
online?
he's online. Charlie?
We might need to unmute him.
This is a copy for the secretary. I'd like to
Thank you.
include in the
I
minutes,
Thank you,
please.
Marge. Thank you.
Ben, I think if he raises his hand, it should go to the top.
There is a hand raised.
It may or may not be him.
Oh,
No, it's Faith. Faith has got her hand raised. So if you raise your hand, it goes to the top of that list there.
oh, I see. No.
So he can unmute with us.
Yeah, Charlie could.
Charlie,
unmute.
just unmute.
Charlie Healy, so he would be either C or H. Here, yep, he's still muted.
All right, he's on it. He's good.
He has to unmute. I just
Okay.
asked
Can you hear me
him.
now?
Charlie,
Good, Charlie.
Can you hear me now, okay?
Can't hear us.
Hello?
yep, go
Yes,
ahead.
we can hear you.
Okay, fine, thank you. Just a quick highlights. Our last meeting was on December 16th. Some of the things that we're working on is with the pro shop is a 90-degree rule for the golf cuts. We're having a lot of trouble with people just driving straight out of the fairway and not abiding by a 90-degree rule. Also, we brought up some work on the bunkers. The face of the bunkers are very soft right now, and a lot of the bunkers plugging into the bunkers. So we discussed with Lane, we're gonna try to repack some of the bunkers' faces to alleviate that problem. Couple other items too is that, well, you've seen probably on the golf course, the trimming of the palmetto trees on 3, 1, 3, 8, 9, 11. That job is just about all done. I think it is completed now. It came out really, really well. I'm very pleased with it. And I think it's making the golf move along a little bit faster. Also,
Charlie, do you know? How many golf balls did they find in those palmettos?
I haven't got to play very much, but there's quite a few I understand.
I'd like mine back.
I mean, I think there's a few dozen out there with my name on probably, especially on one. But just a couple other things too, just to highlight, because people are always asking. The greens, our greens are cut every day. Pins are changed every day, if we can, unless there's too much fog or water on the greens. And the fairways are cut 3 times a week, and the rough is cut one more time, once every week. Also, our next meeting is on January 21st, which is this Thursday, and we're going to be discussing quite a few more things too, if anyone wants to listen in. That's my report for right now. Thanks.
Thank you, Charlie. Okay, Dennis?
Okay, it's been a little busy. As we all know, it's the crowd's back. Pro Shop has some new faces. We have Denise. Oh, sorry.
Change the batteries on.
Hold down the light a little. If the batteries, right?
Thank you. There we go. We've been busy. Pro Shop has some new faces. We have Denise working Monday and Wednesday, and Paris is working Thursday and Saturday, and they're both working out quite well. Any feedbacks, please let Andy know. The Glennies and the Talons, which are the sale of extra rounds at a reduced price, are sold out. The Christmas Scramble and the Bloody Mary Open were both sold out and very successful. The January 29th, we have the Couples Championship. And I suggested for the Leprechaun Scramble that we do something like the Bloody Mary Open. And Andy's going to get with the food and beverage manager with Carrie to see if we could do that either, green beer or green mimosas. Or something. Has to do with finance, but I think it was really a success with the Bloody Mary Open. I think everyone liked it. Old business. In December, we went over the drop zones. We brought to our attention that hole number 5 is kind of a strong benefit for those players that play off 2. And if they go in the water, they can almost get 70 yards advantage to go over to the drop zone. So we had a group put together, including Ben, that's where you get blamed a little bit. And we went over all the drop zones and those holes that go over the water. And we made a few decisions at our last meeting. We're going to eliminate the drop zones on 5 and 17. But however, we are going to be moving up the 4 tees on 5 so they're closer to the bridge and the water, so they're not so far back. That tee box is huge. So we're going to compensate and make it fair. The whole thing is to make golf fair here at Glen Eagle and fun. 17, we've already moved the tee box for the ladies for 4 and 5 across the water. We're going to be moving the tee boxes up again a little bit, but there is going to be no drop zone on 17. Holes 3 and 16, which have water, there's going to be no drop zones. There's no change. Everything stays the same. On holes 4 and 5, we're going to be making an official drop zone with a 6-foot circle in white where you go to the drop zone. So it won't be going on to the tee box. So this should be a little more professional, a little more authentic, and I think it's a positive move for the golf course. The golf committee, that was unanimous decision on our part, and it's going to be communicated to the members this week on the Friday Flash. And it's going to be implemented on the Couples Championship by the end of the month. Rakes should be put back in the bunkers after you use them, put them back and try and put the head closer to the green so that nothing is blocking the balls that go into roll into the sand trap. The 90-degree rule, as Charlie mentioned, I've requested that the rangers mention it to everybody that the 90-degree rule is really, it hasn't rained very often. It's not for the rain. It's so that we don't wear out the grass right after you get to the fairway. So try not to wear out the spot. We all can do our part to keep the grass looking good. It's our golf course and we can do our part. And once you go into the fairway, you stay in the fairway. You don't go back to the cart path until you need to when you're going to go to the green. So it's designed to keep the grass looking healthy and strong and make it a little easier for Lane, who does a good job. Okay, I also suggested, and I think with the group in December, about moving the tee boxes around not in sequence with the pins. The pins are going to be red, yellow, and blue as usual, but they're going to move the tee boxes around. So maybe when you get to hole 4, it might not be 146 yards as it always is. It might be 125, or it might be 160. But they're just going to try and make it a little more interesting. We have GPS, we have 14 golf clubs, and it's designed to make it more interesting and fun. So I hope everyone agrees. Walkers, okay. We have tee times for walkers off hole 1 and hole 10, depending on what day it is, whether it's a regular tee sheet or whether we're doing crossover play. The issue here is that After 5 o'clock, things become a little bit more complicated. Golf members only are allowed to play after 5 PM at no charge and must go off hole 1 or with permission off hole 10, depending on if they're having crossovers. Right now, we have quite a few people that are jumping on hole 7, hole 5. They're coming out of a house and they're hitting golf balls. I've seen people practicing on hole 9. This is not allowed. We have people that are renting, we have people that allow golf privileges, but they're not allowed to just go on any place on the golf course. Social members are not allowed on the golf course after 5. It's not allowed. So we're going to try and get all the rules for after 5 o'clock. Andy's going to put those together and put them on the Friday flash. And I just don't want to get into it. We got to go out and do, charging people that don't need to be, or fining people. We really just need to enjoy the round. Somebody tees off on hole 1 or walking off hole 1. They don't want to get people jumping in front of them in hole 5 and where'd they come from? It's just wrong. And it's not right. So we need to follow the rules and be respectful of everyone else. And if you find yourself out there in an awkward position, just find out their name and number and report it in. It's not to go after anybody, but it's to get everybody to follow the rules. And it's important that we respect the walkers who are walking and the golfers that have paid. That's all. Safety. Okay. Coming out of 14, we have a stop sign. Anywhere we cross the road, we have stop signs. They are not yield signs. They are not a car is coming and we have the right of way. Stop. It's not rocket science. It might even save a life. This is why we have stop signs crossing the road. Please follow the rules, not to mention the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, which we had a visit from one of the board members who said we've had 80 miles an hour, clocked on one of the speed zones. 25 miles an hour, 85% of the people I'm told break the rules. I don't know how many are under 30, but we really need to be careful. And if somebody stops their car so you can cross, thank them. It's a courtesy. It's not a right. There is no right of way. Use common sense. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Charlie.
Charlie.
Dennis.
Dennis. Oh, Dennis, I'm sorry, Dennis. You're practically twins. You're practically twins.
I don't even know if it pertains to golf. I mean, it does, but I don't know if you answer. What is the current procedure for social members playing golf? In a social member, if I invite a social member to play with me in my foursome, is that allowed?
I believe it is, but I think they have to pay the fee unless they have a tournament or something.
But they can play anytime they want. For instance, can they play anytime they want with a member?
As far as I'm concerned, if they're with a member, I think there is, that they can.
They're a guest. They pay the guest fee. Yes.
And they're not limited to, are they limited to play once a month, twice a month, or can they play?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, I just want to make that clear because.
But they have a
people been
limit
asking
on
that
making their own
question,
tee time.
And I just wanted to make sure that's the rule, but we did allow social members to play up until.
December
December
31st, yes,
That's correct.
yes.
So to be clear, they can't make a tea time, they have to be a guest.
Yeah, of a member, but that's okay.
Yeah.
If I wanted Dave to play with me, it's not a problem. If he wants to play.
I'm not that good.
We're working through the.
No, I just wanted to be clear
The
because people are
Chelsea
asking.
system, the pro shop, it's usually not a problem.
Yeah.
It's really after the 5 o'clock where it becomes untenable, where we don't have any management. Any other questions?
So why don't we have a cart guy out there at 5 o'clock?
Say that again?
Why don't we have
A
a
ranger?
ranger out there? We have someone that has a heart attack. We got CP, they have supposedly they got the CPR. What do they call it? They can call 911, but if a ranger is at least going around, I mean, why do we cut them out at 5 o'clock? What's the big deal for 2 more hours?
I think getting help has been a problem, number one. And number two, last year, I believe the year before, they were actually going out there and checking up on everybody and getting them and getting charged. So they were there. It is something I've been talking with Andy about.
But I'm saying it's gonna eliminate the problem we just discussed about people jumping on 1 and 4.
Well, it'd be nice if people just
I
follow the
discussed that
rules.
with them about, we underran golf by almost $400,000. It's not like it's a budget problem, right? Because he said, well, we'd have to pay them, but they don't make much money. And I think it would solve some of the problems we're talking about. And we've talked about it and he's considering it.
And he's
Is it
considering.
his decision or is it a board decision?
Well, he works with his budget.
It's an operational decision. If he's got the
It's
budget and he
operational.
wants to do it.
It's his department they're running as we speak.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure if we make a recommendation or we change rules, he will follow them for sure. But I mean, it's his.
We used to have a range. That's why
We never had him
asking.
after 5.
Not after 5.
And I would make a recommendation to do something, but I want to get all the rules issued correctly, because it is confusing. to me.
Yeah.
And I only found out yesterday some of the details of the rules, so I want to get the rules published so everybody
people
knows
know.
what they
Yeah,
are.
right.
So we're not.
There's a lot of dog walking on the golf course after hours as well. and
There's a lot of
Yeah.
everything. out
Yeah,
It's
there
just-
is.
It's wrong.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm still got this, fix your ball marks, fill in the divots. It's our cost. The green on 5 is looking terrible because it takes 6 weeks to repair it. If you don't fix it right away, we're there, it'll be fixed in 24 hours. So if we repair the course, it'll stay in better shape. Even Tiger Woods fixes his ball marks. And when it rains, marks easily. We don't get much rain. Yes, Jane?
Dennis, Jane, again, I just have a question because I think a lot of new people are back and on the tee box. First, are we supposed to not fill in our marks on the tee box?
No, we're
No.
not.
On the par threes, on any of them, but I think that's confusing. 14 had just sand everywhere the other day. So I think that needs to just be flat.
There is, Lane does not want anyone filling in the divots on the tee box only.
On any tee box.
On any tee box, because they tend to overfill and they ruin the machines. Because we have cutters for the greens, we have cutters for the first cut, we have cutters for the fairway, and we have cutters strictly for the tee box, and they ruin the blades. So we do a lousy job on the tee boxes, so he
There's a
wants
guy
us
that
to
does
not do it, he has somebody go around and he does it.
Okay.
And I violate that rule because I fill in the hole, but it's flat.
But the problem is they were crowning also. They don't want that. to
They don't
happen.
want it.
And that's why they took the
overfill.
sandboxes away.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank
I'm
you.
sorry.
That's all right, Dennis. Thank you. Dan? Dan O'Brien. Dan, oh, there he is.
The Finance Committee met last week to discuss the preliminary December financials. Karen and Ben went over the questions regarding the major variances, which is the usual way we run the meeting. There are a number of departments who have finished with positive variances, and it looks like there's 1 or 2 that are finishing in a deficit. We will talk further in the month about how we're going to address those, what sort of options and mechanisms we have to deal with excess funds and deficits. And of course, we have golf funds and non-golf funds, which we can't commingle to help out each other. And we'll likely have a second meeting this month to begin those discussions. Karen and Ben reviewed an enhanced AP process that they've begun here. Annually, we get a sort of a recurring audit deficiency reported because mainly we have a one-person finance department. So it's a deficiency that appears in a lot of club reports. But with this enhanced process, Karen thinks that deficiency will be cleared in the next report. Staff also went over an updated process for pricing events intended to recover a higher percentage of our actual costs. So that's being implemented. There was also, we talked about the schedule of the meeting. Our residents have asked that the Finance Committee meeting be scheduled sort of the same day and same time slot each month. So we're going to work to do that. But in that regard, Karen has also, I don't know if you've talked to the board yet, but they talked about shifting the board meeting from the 3rd Monday to the 4th Monday to give finance staff more time to get the final numbers ready. So that's something you folks will have to work out. But the finance committee did vote in favor of a shift. B&G did come to the meeting with a proposal for a traffic study at an estimated cost of $7,000. And that did trigger this whole discussion about that hadn't been requested when I guess it would be either Common Grounds or administration put in their budget for this year. So we did go back and forth about whether we could fund it out of operating funds, whether we could fund it out of a capital account. It ended up being reported out of the committee with no recommendation at that time. And I guess either Sharon or Bob will talk about where they might head with that. And I think those were the main points of the meeting.
Thanks, Dan.
Who's next?
Joanne. Oh, Joanne.
No, Joanne.
Joanne.
Yeah.
Communications committee met last week. We're working on a number of projects. All of them are basically strategic action plan directives. Our committee on new owner orientation is planned a reception for this Saturday in the dining room. We have approximately 80 new residents attending. This is an invitation only event. All new residents from near the end of 2020 and through 21 have been invited and get an opportunity to respond. Will have been in, some of his staff will be present along with Patty Blanche and some of the community HOA presidents. Thanks to Gary and Andy who have donated a couple of raffle items. And we appreciate all the work Mary Hallway and her committee have done in organizing and preparing for this reception. Bill Cody is working with the videographer to prepare a short marketing video for our website. They're finishing the photography and preparing the narrative. The marketing and first impressions ad hoc committee has met several times. This is a joint committee with building and grounds. We're focusing on the front wall entrance. It's been power washed, made a huge improvement in appearance, and we have some preliminary estimates from 2 sign companies. Building and grounds has a more comprehensive estimate on some of the repair work, and we're getting our ducks in order to make a presentation and submit those bids. We're also preparing to update the new owner welcome packet, and there's been several changes. We need to change the staff directory and the page on the market process for that packet. Next meeting is in February.
Question. So Tom asked when we go through the strategic action plan whether the communication committee is the appropriate place. Do you think it is? He asked you. I don't think you heard him.
I didn't hear it. Appropriate place for,
The strategic plan.
oh, there are the top 4 items. And we have addressed this before in our meetings in May. I don't know if we sent it. Then we certainly sent it to John. Membership, it's all under membership. Down.
Just pretty sure it was on the bottom.
Membership.
there.
you go.
Membership.
So 58, 59, 60, and 61.
And also 67, no?
Well,
I don't know, I had that one.
that's right. We decided we don't necessarily need an external marketing brochure right now where every property is sold, they're selling quickly. But first impressions is important. And that's why we decided we're focusing on the front entrance. That will always be important and important to our community. So that's where our focus is right now.
Okay.
So we're gonna have to figure out who gets the other ones in our communications plan.
Yep. Okay, thanks, Joanne.
Thank you.
Bob?
Bring in a chair.
It's gonna be here a while.
I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing in our lives. We got stuff. First thing to say is we did, in the last couple of months, we had new gate hardware installed.
Bob, just a little bit,
It's right in front.
right in front of you.
We had new hardware installed, gate operators, both Davis Boulevard and Radio Road, as far as I know, everything has gone
Yeah.
well, it seems good. We should celebrate these victories if things go well. The only quirk I heard was that some people were concerned about bicycling exit at Davis Boulevard. Gates now are so close together, you can't get between them. I know that that's true, but I will tell you that as I bike up front, the detective does pick you up and the gates do open if you're on a bike, so there's good news there. Does anybody have any complaints at all about the work that was done? Everything good?
Whoa.
Good.
Yay.
So we should celebrate again. Ben gave the update on the radio road fence. Those parts are being made, so we'll get back in business to get that done. I do want to say that the monies that are being spent on that are very appropriate monies to spend every so many years. During the past years, we developed the budgets for that. We also talked to Dan and the Finance Committee about placeholders, about putting in a certain amount of money every 5 years or so, because I think we do need to expect to spend $50,000 or so every 5 years to maintain that wall. Otherwise, it will deteriorate rapidly. So we're doing the right thing by getting at it now. On the ficus hedge, we have a lot of hedges that are dying because of ficus die-off from whitefly disease. There have been some plantings recently behind the ficus hedge that most of you will not notice, but it is the start of a process that's going to occur over a number of years to replace the ficus hedge with other plantings that are less susceptible to disease. So that's also good news. Within the next couple of weeks, I think you should see an announcement about memorial benches in the Friday Flash. This is a no-cost item for Glen Eagle. People will, if they choose to, they can donate to buy a bench or a tree or both. And those locations and the types of those will be controlled by GE. And that's something that's a nice thing that people want to do. No cost to Glen Eagle. I did want to address the front entrance drainage. Some of you know, if you've been paying attention to building and grounds, there were some minor issues with erosion there. There were some initial things that were done by Lane and his crew a couple of months ago. There are some other items that need to be done to reset the slope and add some drain lines. Rather than contract out for that, Lane's team can get at it, but not right away. They had committed to get it done before wet season. This is great, and it avoids us having to contract out at a higher expense. I'll add that the signage is all very stable on a big concrete basis. It's not going to go anywhere. There's no big expenses coming here. The issue about lake bank erosion and settling, there are two different areas where this is an issue. We've investigated the Lago areas. There were some concerns by several members that live on Lago on the lake. It turns out that the erosion appears to be exclusively on land that's owned by Glen Eagle between the homeowners' backyards and the lake. We discussed some of the issues related to that with homeowners right now. As far as I know, the complaints have subsided and or disappeared. So I don't think there's any significant exposure that Glen Eagle is going to have on that at all. Time will tell. On the 15th hole, it's not really erosion, it's settling. There is no Glen Eagle land between the homeowners that butt up against the 15th lake and the lake shore itself. There is no Glen Eagle land. So any of the problems with land there is not Glen Eagle land, it's homeowner land. There were several attempts to reduce the erosion, the settlement over the years. I'm not sure that there's any current problem. We have one resident that's concerned. I walked it, I talked to several engineers. I don't think there's a Glen Eagle problem there. Time will tell. If anyone wants to pursue it against Glen Eagle, that's their option.
Well, hold on a second, Bob. We did this before, Mo. I thought it was because it was Glen Eagle's property.
Back in 2017, 18, I think it was 18, 19, somewhere in there.
That's what we paid it for.
Yeah. We probably spent $70-some thousand.
$85,000 total at the time.
Yeah.
The plats show that it's not Glen Eagle land, it's homeowner land.
It's a 10.
Get surveys to confirm that. Right.
No, that's interesting because we didn't know that.
Yeah, there's a 10-foot easement there.
Well, there's a 10-foot easement behind the homes that are not on the lake. There's a 5-foot easement on the homes that are on the lake because whoever did it knew full well that the land was going to disappear. And those easements are there so that Glen Eagle can maintain the lakes because our bylaws require us to maintain the storm drainage lakes. So we have to be able to get at the shoreline. So we have 5 foot to do that behind their property.
So you're,
That was,
I don't put you in the spot, but basically you're saying building and grounds does not believe that's a Glen Eagle property.
The information that we have shows that it is not Glen Eagle property, correct?
Wow.
but we'll,
That's,
yeah.
I think the homeowner there is doing a survey, and I talked to the homeowner at length, I told him what my opinions were. He may try to pursue further activity, I don't know that, I don't think there's a significant exposure for Glen Eagle, although time will tell.
The actions taken there are based on the premise that the maintaining the lakes is the responsibility of Glen Eagle.
Yeah,
drainage.
Just as a quick comment, there were some people who say when Glen Eagle did the golf course revisions, I think 2017, installed bulkheads, the water level was changed in the lake. Well, that's impossible because those lakes are all interconnected with drains. They come and go with the rain. It has nothing to do, you could fill up that lake and the tide of truckloads wouldn't do anything. So again, these two items, people have pointed out recently that maybe these are significant exposures to Glen Eagle and some information that's going around the community. I don't believe that to be the case. Similar to the issue on 15th Road, we do get involved in helping to determine easements, what responsibilities Glen Eagle has for trimming trees, bushes, etc. in lands that typically the issues come up with homeowner property where it's their property and not Glen Eagle owned land. Members of Building and Grounds have researched a lot of this. There are different opinions about some of these things, and we are at the point now where we're going to recommend to the board that we use an outside and independent attorney to review the information that we have and answer a list of questions that we're in the process of developing that will help decide who needs to do what. And the responsibilities do vary. If it's border landscaping, if it's required to be put in at the time of the permit, that may be one issue. There may be a different answer for Euros, because the Euros maintenance actually is not required other than invasive species control. And there could be issues where homeowners have put things and looking to GE. So we feel like we need to get attorney help. We want to use Steve Adamczyk.
Adamczyk.
We recommend, based on what we know, using him so that we don't have any potential conflict of interest with the normal Glen Eagle attorney, and we can get good, sound answers to these things to go forward.
A question, Bob. Using Steve, this is still internal. We're not going to the county, to the city.
No.
So it's internal here. It's our information to deal with as we see fit once that report
And
comes
this
in.
is to answer questions like whose responsibility is it to maintain certain landscaping? If it dies, who has to replant it? If the grass dies, who's supposed to replant it, etc.
So will we know when that study is done, what our total Euros count is?
This is independent of the Euros count.
Yeah,
This has to do with responsibility for vegetation.
So that the second step would be that we're still going to do that?
Euros is different. That's
Right.
coming up.
Oh, okay. Just keep going. Man.
This has to do with easements and the definition of responsibilities. when there's Questions between homeowners and Glen Eagle or the local HOA, the sub-community HOA, for instance.
Okay.
Bob, for example, would it be like in Addison, at the back of the Radio Road wall, there is an easement that we understand is a 10-foot easement that is Glen Eagle responsibility. And then the homeowners come but up to that property.
Okay, so
Is that gonna be
my
explained?
interpretation right now is that you in the back, if you live on Radio Road, whoever lives on Radio Road on Addison, there is a landscape buffer easement.
Yes.
That doesn't mean that everything that's there is GE's to maintain. What it means is the landscape buffer, which is the ficus planting, probably is GE's to maintain. If there are hardwood trees back there, that's probably not GE's to maintain. This is what we need clarity on.
That's
and
what
we
we
don't-
could.
yes.
So you're going to develop your list of questions and get an estimate from Steve on what the cost would be for his time?
Correct.
And bring that back to us?
Correct. And
Okay.
we'll offer to meet with them, go through drawings and the questions that we had.
We've got multiple drawings. We've got multiple.
We got.
Yes, we do.
We got a ton of
Multiple
drawings.
versions.
We got drawings, we
Yes.
got deeds, we got surveys. we got-
Yes, we do.
What do you say?
No,
What say? They're all different.
they're all different.
There are.
Yeah.
Okay, the next issue is I'll call safety on the roadways, the speed control. We continue to collect radar data. The recording sign that we have, one of two, is recording, and it's now over by Brittany. So don't go too fast. We do routinely have people that go 50 miles an hour in here. We've had a record 80-mile-an-hour speed, as someone referenced earlier. I continue to think there are things that we should do to reduce speed. Hardware changes may be the thing that gets it done. But, and as Dan said, we did have a quote for a traffic engineer. I'll add traffic engineering, a proposal and some drawings submitted to the county is a requirement. We can't do any of this on our own. So we will eventually have to hire a traffic engineer. However, we did discuss whether speed control by itself was the primary goal, or we'll try to broaden it up to look at crosswalks, member education, things like that. So we basically want to regroup. We're going to get a revised proposal from 1 or 2 traffic engineers with this slightly broader scope. You know, it may increase the cost a little bit, but it may actually reduce our long-term costs if we can get some of these things done without having to put in the speed humps or so many speed humps, for example.
And let's take this time while we've got over 100 online and a group in here for everybody to please slow down.
So here's my plea.
In season, we've got bikers, walkers, runners, carts, you name it. We've got them on the road, and please slow down to the 25-mile-an-hour speed.
So my plea, in I don't know, maybe a dozen words, be courteous and considerate towards others. Signal your lane changes and turns ahead of those turns, even if you don't see another car, because passengers, pedestrians and bikers really rely on you. I'm a biker, I gotta tell you, it's painful when I see people turning and not have their blinker on, because I don't know what the hell they're doing. Strike me. Yield to anyone that you could hurt. If you're walking, you're probably not gonna hurt somebody. If you're biking, you might. If you're in a golf cart or a car, you sure can hurt someone. So yield to them. That's the right thing to do. And I heard stopping at sidewalks. I didn't hear stopping at stop signs in golf carts. So maybe that's something to do. Okay, on my clubhouse roof been addressed, the road report been addressed, general maintenance vote address been addressed, building condition assessments. We have received quotes from some firms to assess some of the building conditions, internal status of electrical, plumbing, lighting, mold, other things. We have some ability to contract for that, but we're, as Sharon said earlier, we're going to be looking to the board for guidance on how much money we have to spend to do these things. You know, in order for us to budget future repairs, by the way, it's very hard for us to come up with estimates for costs. But there's times when you want to hire someone outside as a consultant or something who can assess it, and then they can help us develop capital budgets that may take place over the next year or two. So when we ask for money to do studies, please be as generous as you can, because that's what it takes to do the long-term budget. We talked about the front entrance sign. And now I'll touch on the hot potato, which is restricted lands, including murals. Most of you know the roadmap committee has made a proposal or an initial recommendation of things that we might do for our strategic plan. Well, that plan includes developing things on restricted lands, specifically land preserve over by the divot, and maybe some lands over here that are actually restricted next to our parking lot. In the latter part of last year, it was determined that Glen Eagle is actually deficient and by 23 acres out of the 41 we're supposed to have by Collier County. Collier County knows this, and we were researching the problems that may arise based on that deficiency. Well, we had a meeting.
Did you say the county's aware of that?
The county is aware since 2006. There are 2 regulatory agencies, Collier County, who doesn't really want to create a problem for its residents. And then the other one is a more significant one, South Florida Water Management Division. They are a big bureaucracy and they have nothing to do with Naples. It's all of South Florida, and they have significant power, and we have much, they don't care about Glen. So we met with, in November, we met with 2 consultants from Grady Minor, several board members. Sharon and I were there, Bruce Davis for the map committee, Ben was there, a couple of residents were there. They basically told us that the non-compliance is a non-issue unless GE causes some triggering event to occur. In other words, based on our current situation, neither one of those entities are going to come after us. However, if we do pursue unrestricting any of our lands or cause any other triggering event, like we build something on restricted lands, they come at us like gangbusters. If Glen Eagle wants to restrict any land, given the current situation we have, we were told that the minimum cost exposure to Glen Eagle would be $500,000. Could be as much as several hundred thousand more than that if we wanted to unrestrict all of our land. So in knowing, the other thing is that only the 9.8 acres by the divot or the preserve, as I call it, is the only land that's really of interest to South Florida Water Management. As far as they're concerned, we could probably do what we want with the rest of the land. That's the only land that has material and environmental benefits, according to them. So at this point, since the minimum expenditure to unrestricted land is $500,000, this is well over the board's capability to approve without a full membership vote. So as a result, we're assuming that in order to do any unrestricted land, it requires a full member vote. So the survey that we had talked about to confirm the quality of the Eros lands is really not a critical path item. So we're hoping that the roadmap committee, perhaps along with the board, will address this issue in some clarity for members on the 24th of January, because as a building and grounds committee, our charter requires us to protect those lands, and that's what we're going to do. So we're not involved in unrestricting those lands. We'll provide advice if need be, but that's not our mission. And the other thing I'll add is that there are places to put pickleball and some other things if we needed to at Glen Eagle. There are several places out here. I've talked to board members about some of my recommendations of where things could go without having to put anything in preserve. We know there's ways of adding pickleball and other things without disturbing those lands. So I hope that's what gets explored as part of the roadmap process going forward. Again, as Sharon said, we do look to the direction of the board for where to spend money, how to spend it, what the priorities are. And that's something we'll continue to work with. We do some budget interaction with the finance committee. Probably we need to do more. It's something we're going to pay attention to. Our next meeting is on Tuesday the 1st at 3 p.m.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.
Okay, good. That concludes the agenda items for today.
Mike. With Mike.
That concludes the agenda items for today. We can adjourn the meeting and then have a resident forum. Someone would like to make a, yes, Karen?
Can we move that meeting? Can we move our meeting to the,
Oh, yeah.
can we do that?
Do you want to make a motion?
Yeah, if I can.
Okay, so why don't you talk about that? Just following up on what Dan O'Brien said.
I would like to make a motion to move the board of.
We'd like to make a recommendation to the board. Yep.
Recommendation to the board to move their meeting 1 week further into the month, which would be the 4th Monday, so that the finance committee can meet on the 3rd Thursday, allowing me to finish financials. Okay, appropriately.
Discussion.
Yeah.
If we did that,
So we should make a motion first and then have a discussion.
okay.
That's right.
So I'll move to do what you just said.
Okay, discussion. And I'll second that.
Okay, so discussion. So you're new.
Yes.
In the short time that you're here, you're saying you can't do what Earl did for the past decade, is have the financials ready. Just a question, because getting the financials so late was surprising to me. And I'm not sure if we were 1 or 2 months down the road, if that would make sense. I know I've planned business travel around the 3rd Monday for the next 3 months. So I can call in, I can step away, or we can keep doing what we've been doing, but I'm not aware of the barriers that you were facing. And I have complete trust and respect for your professional opinion. And I do think that there's a learning curve.
Well, can I, let me
Yeah,
address.
so if you can address it,
Yeah.
I'm going to vote no unless you convince me.
All right, I'll do my best. There are 2 reasons why I want to move the meeting. Number 1, invoices. Okay, so I would rather that the invoices were properly posted in the month that they were supposed to be posted. What happens is some product might be received on the last day. The invoice might not get to us for a couple days. The department head then gets the invoice, codes it, assigns it, and gives it to us. And then we have to process it into Jonas. So that takes time. In my experience, and I do have a lot of experience with this, I usually wait about to the 5th day, the 5th business day, to get all invoices from the department heads in. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, and more importantly, I think, is that I like to meet with the department heads prior to releasing the financials, because I'd like to hear what they have to say regarding their, surpluses or deficits. Their variances, variances on their budgeted items. So once I get the financials done, which is the fifth, after at least the fifth business day of the month, I have to schedule a department head meeting, which would be 1 or 2 days into the future. I meet with them. I then can do a summary on the same day, perhaps, maybe the following day. But you can see now that it takes about 10 business days for me to complete that whole process. And I really do believe that meeting with the department heads is a key part of preparing those and finalizing those financials.
I would just have that be a standing meeting in one day, meet with one at 9, next one at 10, 11, 1, 2, 3. Done.
Okay, so let me just address that. We meet together. I think it's really important to meet together as a team. Okay, so we have to find a good time for everyone to meet. The reason I like to do it as a team is because it allows us all to communicate with each other and find out what's going on in the departments. Communication is key. So food and beverage, less sales, cost was high because of, a wholesale food costs. Those kinds of pieces of information are good for everybody to know. So I don't meet individually with them.
Carrie, can I ask you a question on invoicing? So your invoicing comes in, you have purchase orders for your invoicing,
No,
correct?
no, we don't do purchase orders.
You do
anymore.
not?
No. I have not done purchase orders since probably the mid-80s. Yeah.
So you don't do, no one does purchase orders?
No.
So how do we know
They,
you're paying for that product?
So we don't. So they are in charge, the department heads are in charge of ordering and then receiving and then coding and authorizing those invoices and looking for accuracy as far as the pricing of the product, okay? Then what happens is it comes into the accounting office with those, they've signed it and coded it, okay, that they've received it, okay?
So so when they order product, or we get product in here, you have no idea how much. I mean, because we don't have a purchase order to go
Nope.
against it to know the price we're supposed to pay. Is that correct?
That's not necessarily true.
No, that's not true.
It depends on what the product is, but things like food, or Andy's Pro Shop inventory, those things, that's their responsibility to be looking at those invoices.
I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just repeat it.
I don't know.
Okay, if you remember, Dan O'Brien said that, we didn't have a regularly scheduled date for the finance committee because we were never sure when Earl was going to be done. And sometimes when he was done, in fact, he wasn't really done. Because certain months, it's really, really hard to meet that schedule. So, I have no problem with moving it.
Mhm.
And believe me, with Earl, it was, when he was having trouble, because if you tried to talk to him, it was, he was
But once we
stressed.
move, are we gonna stay on that?
Yes.
I don't want to be flip flop.
No.
Because like I work and I come in and out,
Right.
go to meetings.
I think that's, if I had a third reason, it would be for that. I want some standardization of the meeting, right? I want us to, I want this. So I want to have the third Thursday of the month to be the finance committee meeting. And that will be, I'm going to make sure Paige puts it in the Friday flash. So this is, I worked this schedule at the place that I came from, so I have no problem with it. So it will be standardized.
So a point of order. I'll modify the motion to make this effective in April, not March.
With the new board.
But it just, the board can decide whatever they want to do. But if you do it in March, I'll be dialing in.
What about February?
Yeah, February.
This is January.
Mhm.
Are you saying you can't make next month's meeting either in person?
I've got things set where it's been this way for a long time.
Yes, it has.
We have a brand new person who's not able to do things in the time that it's been done in the past. I understand what you're saying about a better process, but I think part of the better process is going to go to our general manager and say, look, your department managers need to be on it. They need to get things done, move things along, and to allow all the extra time to accommodate staff. I'm not in favor of it. I think we just need to tighten things up, and it can work. But it's up to the board to decide whether they want to do it, but you know where I stand.
But she also said, She has to wait for invoices, which Earl didn't do.
I understand, but you can say there's certain things, there's various delayed billings, things like, we understand all that. And so my belief is we need to tighten things up, waiting for everything to fall into place the other according to the schedule. I understand that desire. It's nice and neat and complete, but I think we've had the meetings the third Monday forever. And if we can all stay at that, that would be my very strong preference.
Well, hold on.
Would you?
So one of the things that a lot of the members talked about was members at work say, why can't we have the meetings at 5 o'clock?
And you never
Right.
wrote it.
So
Because it's
if we did that, would that be okay for you?
Why don't we have only 8 board member meetings
Well,
a
that's.
year
that-
instead of 12?
Now we're
Why
getting
don't-
into a whole different discussion.
I mean,
Having a
I'm
board
just
meeting
saying,
every
we're
month
doing this,
is,
why don't we
especially in the summer,
keep-
doesn't make
That's
sense.
a better idea.
But that's,
Yeah.
well, yeah,
Yeah.
but I think that
That's a
that's,
different subject.
I mean, we're at the end of this board. There will be a new board coming in, or a different composition of board coming
We
in
talk
in
about the
March. And I think
schedule,
that's one of the
that's- yeah.
things that we would want to talk about for the upcoming schedule is time and timing. Can you live with doing this for one more month and keep February's the third Monday? Then the third Monday in March ostensibly is the annual meeting. And then we would start with we could think about doing something then and then start in April with the new composition of board for the fourth Monday of the month. All right. That I think that's a compromise. I mean, I'm all in favor of making your life easier. I mean, again, let the managers manage. And if you've got some new processes that you want to put in place and streamline and make your work processes more effective, that's great. We should support that, but we may not be able to do it, turn it on in a dime. So, okay. So let's,
Yeah.
we'll start.
So
Okay,
the
so let's
motion is-
withdraw the motion.
We're withdrawing the
Yeah.
motion.
Okay. And I'd like to ask for a motion, please, to adjourn the meeting, and then we can have the open member forum.
I'll make a motion that we
Okay.
adjourn the meeting at 5:17. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you
Those
very
opposed,
much.
5:17 adjourned.
Okay.
I just wondered, my first part, I was already on the calendar for the fourth Monday of every month at 5 o'clock. So.
No, we haven't changed it.
Local.
Well, can we talk about it again in April?
100%.
Okay.
There can be a domino effect. with those.
Questions?
We'll step up to the mic.
Step up to the microphone.
Identify yourself.
I'm Lou Mango, I live on Harvard Court.
I'm sorry, sir, your name again, please?
Louis Mango.
Hello.
on Harvard. Comment and the lady here made a comment. Money is not in the budget for items that have to be done by committees that are on the plan. And Carl mentioned how could that happen? And the general manager said that there's money in the budget for certain things that may or may not be able to be used for things that's going. Sharon, but Sharon said it needed to be funded. I don't know how that happens. That was my comment. I don't think the general manager's statement is relevant. But it did help the discussion. The other question I have is about the special assessment. And that was sent me for one purpose, cover the deficit in operating in 2019. So I was thinking we start with the board. But at this point, they're set for 2019. I don't see that money can be used for any other purpose. I understand some portion has been allocated radio road wall. Another portion has been allocated to some planning committee, fees for planning. Committee. I don't think that can be done. I don't see how the board can spend special assessment on it, assess for a specific purpose, or anything but that purpose, which is to cover 2019 operating deficits. I think now we have extra money in the budget, and extra money coming in, is that right? A surplus of I don't think that the assessment money can be used for any other purpose than cover the deficit of 2018. What is happening with that money?
What the money. So I'm not completely versed in the 199, so if we get some assistance from the board.
Yeah, okay, you want to do it? Yeah, so basically, we overran by $199,000. About 44,000 of that was in common grounds for tree trimming that was not budgeted. And the rest was food and beverage. And we had to take money from other places to pay our bills because it's like overdrafting a checking account. So we used other money and retained earnings from golf and things like that, which had to be repaid. Now, that's what the assessment was for. We got the money, but we also underran that year by $200,000. We didn't know that. We didn't know there was going to be a pandemic, things would be shut down or whatever. We did it to replenish the funds that we used. Now we had this money left over. And we used it for things that needed to be done rather than assess people to do the things that needed to be done. For example, the Radio Road wall is not a reserve item because it's considered a maintainable asset, not a replaceable asset. So we need $85,000 to do the wall. That money was there and the board voted to use that money. It's not like we're having parties with it.
No, I understand. My point was, but I think the law restricts the use of that money to what it was specifically.
Well, the law, if you make an assessment to do something, you have to use it for what you did it for. This money was already spent. It wasn't like we did an assessment and say, we're gonna have an overrun, so we're gonna assess. The money goes back into the general fund and we do what we want with it.
Well, I don't know that that's correct. And that was
Well,
my question.
I'm just going by what I was told. What's that?
What has been done with that? That's all I want to know.
Right now, it went to three places, the Radio Road wall, the architect, and the gap between what we had in reserves and what we needed to do the gates.
I'm not sure that that's the correct use of the money in our reserve.
Okay, so.
Let me make a comment on that too.
Yeah.
Technically speaking, what that money did was it replenished the deficit in the operational budget, correct?
There's been no vote on the 2020 surplus. And that money was part of the 2020.
That should have occurred. Yeah.
There's been no vote on it. So
That should have
nothing's
occurred.
been determined.
Ben, here's the issue. When we ask questions.
No, you need the mic.
Here's the issue for me. When members of the community ask questions on finance or anything operational in the club, we're seen as disruptive, argumentative, and kind of being like troublemakers in the club. Yeah, over the last year, we've heard the club has carried out suspensions and they've not quite followed things correctly. We've not really followed things correctly with money. We haven't really used things correctly. We've now got to look at doing a better way of doing the budget. We haven't calculated for the budget this year correctly. So a lot of the things that we as members have asked in the year is being validated as we have new people like you, Karen, and you, Ben, looking at this with a fresh set of eyes. And I don't want this constant fighting in board meetings, but I would just like the respect from board members that when we do ask questions, even at that moment in time, you might not agree with us, but please think, we're all educated people. And a lot of the questions we've had over the years are coming out now to be valid questions. And I think we deserve the respect to be able to ask questions and not be targeted and hounded that we're troublemakers and disruptive in the club. Because I'm telling you right now, a lot of the things that we've stated, you guys over the last 2 or 3 months have said, yes, we handled that suspension wrong. We didn't handle this assessment money right. We haven't done this right with the budget. And we're not looking to cause trouble. All we're looking to do is to be able to have a dialogue with you guys. So that's just my comment on what this gentleman's saying and what's going on in this discussion. And please, Chris, before you interrupt me. And the last point that I make is this, and I'm going to ask you guys politely as a board, it's a request. From this meeting today, we have a lot of maintenance issues that need to be looked at. We have financial issues to deal with, how are we going to pay for it? We have strategic action item plans to look at here. I am looking forward, believe it or not, I'm looking forward to seeing the plans in the roadmap, to see what the other options are. But I hope this board, after the roadmap plan on the 24th, does not encourage the membership to vote on anything until a new board is in place and until Ben and Karen have had the chance with a fresh set of eyes to look at every financial aspect of this club and maintenance issues, so we can make decisions going forward, not in the heat of emotion, but with two professional people looking at our club with clear professional eyes, not community members and board members that sometimes we're all emotionally too attached to our own feelings. That's just my point on everything.
Can I respond to? I'd like to respond to Carl. So Carl, the two issues that keep coming up on the PPP money and the assessment, the answers have been the same the whole time, but the question keeps getting asked. The answer's not going to change. Now, what we thought was, what Earl said was he moved it for visibility. Well, maybe it is moved. The point is the money is safe. The PPP money, quite frankly, I asked him this question that because I thought we'd have to pay it back. I really did. Well,
And we still are.
yeah, and so, in fact, we talked about that. So my only frustration is we keep saying what we did, why, and Dan actually did his thing in the Friday flash about it, and it still comes up. We've got the money, we're not doing anything with it. Eventually, we're gonna have to, right? But we took the money from the overrun assessment that we turned out, we went back to replenish that. We had money to do things that needed to be done that had never been done. If we didn't do that, we would have to assess people. We already had the money. Why give it back and then ask you for it very politely, say, hey, we need this to fix the wall? That was the rationale. That's why the board voted for it. They voted for it by a different board.
And here's the reason why, because there's a process where you're financially responsible for the whole membership's money. You have to follow set guidelines, and you have to be responsible for those guidelines. When I brought up in the August board meeting that there are no minutes recorded in the finance committee meetings of recommendations to the board, there is no board vote on what to do with monies, and you just said, well, we haven't done anything, we're just set aside, we can use it. You're missing the point. When you serve on a board and a committee, you have to follow the guidelines. Chris, you've been chairman of finance since 2017. I've heard over the last couple of months that many members have said to me the same thing. It seems like now Earl's not here. Earl's getting thrown under the bus. It's all, we didn't get this from Earl, we didn't get that from Earl. So my point is, Chris, even though you say the money is still set aside, there is processes, and I believe Karen and I believe Ben would agree, that those processes have to be followed. Even if money is not going to be used, it is set aside. There still should be recommendations, there still should be board votes and board discussions. Because if you or me or anybody had a car accident and passed away, there should be a recommendation of what to do to follow. So me and you don't need to debate this in front of the whole membership, but I'm just saying, financially, just from this meeting, we have to look at things before we start voting for the future.
I don't disagree.
If you're going to spend money, it has to be in the budget. If it's not in the budget, it can't be spent. The budget identifies where it's to be spent and how much is to be spent. That's my point. If it's not in the budget, you can't spend it correctly. You can't spend it at all except for the items in the budget.
Well,
Now, has that been done in the past? I don't really know all of it.
well, unless it's unbudgeted, right?
Operationally,
Yeah.
that's technically true, but I mean, the
But what's
board,
wrong, what's wrong with being technically true?
the board.
It's true,
Can I finish?
but don't say technically if it's true.
It's
If
technically
it's
true for operational funds. But the board can make, vote and a motion for a capital item at any time. As long as there's capital monies in there that are available.
And that's on the recording of the minutes and it's an official.
Correct.
document.
Needs to be a
Those things have
resolution.
not been happening.
Yeah, it should be a resolution. Yeah.
My point is, it hasn't.
Yeah.
You can't move money around
Yeah, I agree.
and not make a record of it. Well,
My name is Jeanette Fromkin. I'm a new homeowner. We just closed in December. I'm going to beat the dead horse that everybody's been talking about. I'm going to ask Karen a question. Where on the financial statements is the cancellation of debt income shown? Because I don't see it.
No, it isn't there. It hasn't been booked yet. I'm waiting for the auditors. It's going to be booked as other revenue up at the top.
We need the mic. People can't.
Oh. So the PPP money currently sits on the balance sheet, right, in the cash accounts. But I expect that, I actually know, I've already talked with auditors, that it's gonna be booked as revenue. And I'm waiting for them to do that. Okay, I can do it myself actually, but they're gonna come in with thoughts on that. So it will, and by the way, I just want to make it clear, the government has provided us a letter that says the loan has been forgiven. And I cannot see in any world where the government can come back and take that letter back, right? I don't think I've ever heard of that.
Karen, are we assured that the requirements for forgiveness have been met?
Yes, we have the letter.
But if we filed and requested forgiveness, we had to sign off on that we met those requirements. And one of those requirements were we spent the money within the 24-week period that you were supposed to spend.
And they
We're
reviewed it
sitting
and
here
they,
saying, no,
Yeah,
we
they
didn't.
reviewed it, they said it.
605 is sitting in the bank.
No, they reviewed it and they signed off on it and we
Who's
now,
they?
the,
Small Business
Small business,
Administration.
SBA.
right, right,
Reviewed whatever got submitted. Do we have a copy of what was submitted?
yes.
The yellow, the yellow light has to be on.
Yeah.
Green light, it's on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Just keep it real close.
so,
Yeah.
I'm a CPA.
Yep.
I'm also a senior manager for the IRS. So,
A good person to know.
yes, so I do know a little bit about what I'm talking about. I believe, from watching this meeting, everyone seems to get very upset about money, understandably. I think that, Chris, you are doing a disservice to the finance committee because you are using language, which I understand because I'm a CPA, but these people in the room don't understand. So you're saying that the $665,000 or whatever it is still out there. No, it's not out there. It wasn't spent.
Yes,
It's
but
spent. It is
That's
spent.
exactly right.
yeah, but what we did was
But
we
you set-
sequestered it.
You
and
set
that's
it
why.
aside, but don't talk about that. Because you're making it sound like it's still out there and we're gonna use it for something else. No, it's already been used for what it was supposed to be
Right.
used.
But
The same
which
thing
means,
with the $199,000 deficit. It's not, it's been spent already.
It was replaced.
but what's gonna happen is it's being replaced.
The way you're speaking at these meetings is making people believe that you're taking money from someplace else and using it somewhere else, when you're not.
Right.
So you're not doing yourself a service.
Well, what we learned with, when Karen came and Michelle, that the way Earl had talked about doing it was actually, although there's nothing wrong with it, it was incorrect. Right, so it should have gone, it should have flowed in operational fund to show up as a surplus.
Once it was forgiven.
Right. Well, no, look, I'm just telling you the way it was.
Now,
Right.
these financial statements, are these Earl's financial statements?
Those are mine. Are they for December?
Yeah, this is the format that they're presenting in the report.
We still have money.
They just have it sitting in the bank account.
Please talk in the microphone.
The government says you spent in a certain amount of time on specific things. They don't just loan that with you a free ride and say it's forgiven.
Right, but the problem is you've got a lot of companies in the funds here, people talking about this account here and that account there. You should have restricted funds. So when the 665 came in, that should have gone into a separate account, a separate restricted fund, and only funds, expenses associated with that should have gone out of that account. And so it should be zero right now. So if you talk about that there's still $665,000, it's wrong, since it's gone. It
Right.
wasn't spent.
And if that was zero, then we still have this surplus that we're talking about right now.
Right, and then the financial statements, you've got
It's the same thing. It's
$1.6
just
million
semantic.
surplus.
It is
right now.
semantic.
You
Yeah.
get under 600, so you're gonna have a $2 million surplus this year.
We'll see.
No,
I'm waiting for the audited
won't be that
financials.
much.
And so is there any tax planning that can be done on that to avoid taxation on the $2 million by restricting funds now and putting things into the proper funds, so we don't have to pay taxes on the money, because we need that money.
It's a good question. Yeah.
That's a good question.
Great. I mean, she's got good points. Yeah, but I'm not a CPA, never was.
No, I'm not a.
Nor do you want to be.
No.
No, but the point is, we did.
Yes. Are there
Another year, we'll put him on the bus. No.
Other questions?
Oh, you know what this one?
Anyone else from the audience?
Thank you all for coming.
No, I have to go to the minutes.
So-
Great.
Thank you. See you guys. Thanks, Ben. Yes, sir. Thank
Oh,
you. Ben, thank you.
Oh, yes. I'm trying to do it. Yes, I try to, you know, the thing is, I keep saying the same thing every time. It's the same